not. But it's, I mean,
or time sensitive anyway. It's
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Look, we got it. We started at 4. Okay,
Oh,
now
1.
it's 4:01.
9.
But
Your time doesn't count, Nick.
Oh, really?
darn.
Oh, we invented it.
Yep. It's fake.
This is
Yep.
you invented
Fake
time?
time.
Fake time.
What? The British invented time.
Yeah, we did. Didn't you know
Show
that?
title.
Yeah.
News to
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah. So, never mind. It's not even worth going into.
Nah.
We were just talking about the fact that at the beginning of the week, the big news and the buzz in aviation was that Allegiant expose on 60 Minutes, CBS's 60 Minutes here in the States. And I thought, the whole darn show would be talking about that. And then all of a sudden, the Southwest thing happens. And I think that was probably the best news ever for the folks.
For Allegiant, yeah. Allegiant was like,
yeah, absolutely.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Dana.
I hear something.
It
Hey,
sounds tropical.
how are you?
And
I hear.
like the ocean, or I don't know.
What's up, man?
Is it bad? Or if I try to get on before you guys go live?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're actually we're
recording.
on live, but we're not. We didn't start the show, so go ahead and say hello to everybody in the chat room.
Hey, everybody in the chat room. It's Dana. I'm walking upstairs to an observation deck, and I'm going to have a really good view here in about a minute. So if you guys want to hang out before you go live on air with the recording, I can at least say hello to everybody.
What are we going to get a view of, Damon? Or Dana?
The entire island.
Yeah.
We're going up to that's a big observation deck, really high up.
All right.
Lots of stairs.
I'm opening a book on whether Dana makes it to the top before he has a heart attack.
Wow,
Big vote of confidence in Dana.
Dana, we're pulling for you, man. You're not going to have a
Yeah,
heart attack. I
you're
know
fine. I'm not worried about you. I know.
Yeah.
He goes to the
Look, he's
gym. He works out.
Yeah,
Frozen already.
he's. Uh-oh.
Yep.
It's like that.
Well,
Disney,
there must be no Wi-Fi at the top of the.
It's like the
observation
Disney
deck.
flick.
Yeah, the higher you go,
Frozen.
the worse the Wi-Fi gets.
Because everybody knows that Wi-Fi signals are like they sink.
Yeah, that
Like
yeah.
cold air.
They're,
like
they're
that.
heavier than air.
That's a fact. Look it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
50%.
yeah, 49, 48, 47.
Oh, no.
Just need like a meter on the side of the screen where it just like
That would be fun. Okay, we're in a nose
Eventually
dive.
it just goes.
Oh dear, love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is APG behind the scenes.
Oh, someone's got a
We're waiting
question.
to see if
People have questions for me, and I didn't prepare any of this. Uh-oh.
What?
Well,
That's unusual.
Stephanie, I'm surprised you're still alive, having seen pictures of you struggling through.
I
what
wasn't
looked
struggling
like
at all.
A freezing cold, rainy blizzard thing.
Well,
You looked like you were finding a way. Your eyes were slitted against all the weather and headwind. And all that.
I really, when I go out to run a race, I really like it to be in 38-degree temperatures with a 30-mile-an-hour plus headwind, and driving torrential rain.
Well, yeah, you got your wish.
So that's.
I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Very impressed. I mean, it's hard enough doing speeds like that and doing a course like that and doing a distance like that. But when the conditions are really against you, you just got to, go, wow, that's an achievement.
Well, it turned out well. So we'll get into all the gory details of it, I'm sure, when we start, because that's really all I have
Can't
to talk
wait
about
for you
this
to
week.
start doing the one in the desert and the one over Greenland.
Over Greenland.
I'm sure there must be a marathon through
Well, there's one in
Greenland.
Antarctica, which
that
costs a lot
sounds
of
good.
money to get to, which makes it all the more appealing. Or you could do
Ooh.
all 7 continents in 7 days. Also very expensive, but
Yeah.
very appealing in a sick
Yes, it does.
way.
Wait, 7 marathons in 7 days?
On 7
in
continents.
7 continents. Yes, there've been a
Yeah,
few
but
that
the
have...
7 marathons things.
He's like, I don't care about the continents. He's like, I care about the 7 marathons in 7 days. I'm not worried about the
Yeah.
7 marathons in 7 days. I'm worried about how you sleep on the plane to your next destination.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're just exhausted and you do.
Because the
but-
rest between each marathon is you being on an airplane.
airplane,
and going,
exactly.
Oh my God.
That's sick.
I think it starts in Australia and then you go all the way around to Antarctica.
Wow.
Dana, are you back? Let's see his picture. I'm getting the idea that the internet in the Cayman Islands is not top notch.
No.
Perhaps not.
How's my internet signal? Because Jeff, you seem a little
Brilliant.
broken to me for some reason.
You're
I am
clean
broken.
and
Clean.
sharp.
Okay.
Jeff's
Excellent.
a wee bit fuzzy to me,
Uh-oh. That's not
but only a little bit.
Oh, there he is.
I had to come back down from the observation tower. This Wi-Fi signal didn't quite make it up there.
It's struggling against gravity.
Yes, it was. So, it's called Kamana Bay Resort, and it's all types of cool shops, and there's an observation tower. And last day of diving was today.
All right. So now you're
Excellent.
decompressing for the flight home.
Yes, I am. 20 hours from now, 19 hours from now, and I'll be okay to go. So,
Sounds good to me.
I got pulled over for a photo op this week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a kid thought I was Guy Fieri.
Were you wearing your funny
Well, you
hair?
did tell him you're a good chef, correct?
I offered to take him, because he was just so happy, and he just got certified to scuba dive.
And then
Oh
he
my
meets his
God,
hero, Guy Fieri.
It's so cool. And then I said to him, so he said, "Can I get my photo with you?" I said, "Sure." And it really didn't dawn on me why he wanted my photo. He was all excited. I said, "Well, I wish I'd known. I would have taken you diving with me. I'm an assistant instructor." And he got all excited. "Oh my God. He invited me to go diving with him and everything." I said, I finally put two and two together. I said, "Hey, you think some Guy Fieri?"
I thought maybe
I love
thought
it.
you were,
Hey, you can take
from the
that,
American airline pilot.
celebrity by proxy.
I guess so. I guess so. So, I'll miss you. You guys hearing the echo?
Yep.
Hang
I just
on.
hear an echo.
I think we just turned the
I'm
echo
trying,
down.
I'm trying to do something.
Yeah,
to make-
yeah.
Apparently so.
All right.
Hang on a minute. That sounds close to echo.
So I'm trying to miss the show today. But
Yes.
I'm gonna have some gelato.
I'm not even going to say anything until he turns off this echo button.
Oh, that's better. Looking at Jeff's trunkings for a second.
Oh, that's better. Yes, Dana, we are going
My
to miss
trunk?
you. We're very sad about this, but
Yeah, but
I don't
love
think you're
that photo.
particularly.
What? Go ahead.
I said I don't think you're particularly sad to be in the Cayman Islands, though.
No, not at all. Looks like I had a better time at Cayman Islands than you had running that marathon. Oh,
Hey, what's with the weather in your hometown, huh? I got
what's
some,
with the weather throughout the entire country? My God, it's been we got weathered out down here because of that same storm system. When it's all the way from the Canadian Maritimes, all the way down to Guatemala.
Wow.
So we had some really bad weather here as well. So I guess complaining about the bad weather in Cayman Islands is probably not the right thing to complain about, huh, Steph?
It's all right. It's all right.
No, you keep doing that. Next time we see you, we're going to poke our fingers in your eyes.
Well, Nick's having lovely weather right now, no?
Yeah. Gorgeous work day today. In fact, it's going to stretch on over the weekend.
Yeah, and apparently the London Marathon, which is this coming Sunday, it's forecast record high temperatures. So,
Record high for this time of the year, yes. We just had
yeah.
the warmest day of the year today.
I think the highest temperature ever recorded for that marathon was 22.2 Celsius.
All right,
That's
wow.
forecast for 23, 24. So
It's going to be, well, it's good for me. I don't think it's going to be ideal
not
for
great
the
for
runners.
runner. No, that's too hot.
Wow. Where'd Jeff go?
He's organizing his internet link because he was gone all fuzzy.
Oh, he just left the
And
call.
now he's disappeared.
Now he's gone.
Yeah, he's just perudled.
Disperoodled?
Yeah, that's a family word.
Let's see if this works.
I like it.
Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Hello.
He's back again.
Yeah, I had to switch USB-C docks so that I could use the Ethernet connection to see if I can get better.
Well, you're
better
much
connection.
sharper now. I can see the individual hairs of your moustache.
Very good.
Yep,
And I just had it
exactly right.
coiffed by my barber.
You have a moustache coiffer at your barber's? Oh, very
Mhm.
nice.
Well, it's the same guy that cuts the hair, does the eyebrows, does the.
I had my eyebrows
mustache.
done today.
Oh, it looks very nice. They look very nice. Much nicer than mine.
First
Does
time
he-
in like 6
Does he
weeks.
pluck your ears as well?
I have my
No,
hair
I
done.
do that.
Get the little trimmer out for the nose and the ears.
I actually
You guys are too
squeeze
young
my,
for that.
my ear. Oh no, I have plenty of gray hairs that grow out of my ears, but I have a thing now that I don't like any of them there, so I pull them all out.
Ouch.
Don't blame you one bit. I pull them out all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever pulled out any nose hairs or ear hairs yet.
It makes you
Okay.
sneeze. Pull out a nose hair. It makes me sneeze anyway.
That sounds about right.
Makes my eyes water and then I sneeze. Dreadful.
Okay, Nev says that he doesn't think I'm on the pile.
Yeah, I don't think you are either. You
No,
sound
neither
like
do
you're.
Okay, let me see. Oh, yeah,
What?
because it says built-in
Notice
microphone.
is a-
How about
320?
now?
That'll account
Much
for it.
better.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you are. That's
More
not-
better.
Mm. So you're on the streets of Georgetown. Yes?
Camana Bay.
Camana Bay.
Camana. It's a new
Wow.
development, all types of shops and fooderies and debauchery and all that type of fun stuff.
Fooderies and debauchery. Thanks, Nev. You're the
Yeah,
man.
see,
You're the man.
Debauchery.
Debauchery. All right. So how's your week been going there, Dana?
Fantastic.
Lots of
Great,
good diving?
Great diving. A little bit of weather. You missed that whole conversation. The weather that affected Dr. Steph in Boston actually affected us all the way down here in Grand Cayman and all the way down into Honduras. It was a massive cold front. So we had a lot of wind, and me complaining about the weather is kind of stupid, but we
I'm
can't
sure
go
it was
scuba
lovely.
diving.
I noticed you have like a windbreaker or something on. So is it a little cool down there?
That's not a windbreaker. That's my tropical
Oh, okay.
tropical motorcycle.
I'm sorry.
Jersey.
I thought it was a coat or something.
Cool motorcycles. Yeah,
Gotcha.
no, it's beautiful. Beautiful. And just in time for me to leave tomorrow. Perfect.
That's how it always goes, right?
It is just, yeah.
They're
The way
changing it
the-
from Murphy's Law to Colton's Law.
Yes.
Yeah, well, of course, you saw that
Or Dana's
exciting
Law.
news this past week, right?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. I've waited a year to not upgrade. I waited a year so I would have seniority, and they just cut me off at my knees. So I'm less than thrilled.
Don't bring me down, 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 down. Don't bring us
Don't bring me
down.
to, yeah, well, yeah, that's the news I get when I'm on vacation, right?
Come on, it's what you make of it. It's a choice to be happy.
For every dark cloud, there's a
Yes.
silver lining somewhere.
That's right.
So
And
things happen for a reason.
just choose to be happy. That's the way we
Be
like
happy.
it. Be happy.
That's right.
Don't
Here we
worry.
go.
You're
I'll be
alive.
happy. I
You're in
will
a
be
in a
happy,
beautiful
don't you
tropical
worry.
paradise right now. Look at all the wonderful things you have in your life.
A thermos full of, guess what it is? Thermos full of what?
Liquid confidence. Liquid reassurance.
Alcohol.
Liquid attitude adjustment.
attitude adjustment. There
Attitude
you go. I couldn't
adjustment,
remember
yes.
exactly what term you use.
Liquid or adult entertainment in a bottle. It's a whole thing full of whiskey. Scottish
Lovely.
whiskey at that.
I was
Glenn Levitt.
close.
Yeah, very
Just
close.
bourbon.
Okay.
All right,
Fine.
you want me out of here so you can get the show rolling, or would you like me there at least for the intro?
Yeah, we could do the intro if you'd want, and then catch everybody else up, and then you can excuse
Yeah.
yourself and move
Start
on.
start with Dana. So
Okay.
if you want.
All right.
Or,
I can do
Well,
that.
you know what? I'll do the normal.
or hang around. Okay, yeah.
Do the
Or hang
normal
around.
order, and then you can. We'll start with Dana as far as catching us up on what's going on, and then we'll take it from there.
Exactly. Oh, what happened to my recorder? It disappeared.
Why does it always disappear?
I don't know. Well, and Evernote has been trying to update for over 2 weeks now, and I can't get it to shut. And I just give up and leave.
Yeah, don't even You don't even need to worry about Evernote anymore.
I'm not, but it's just stuck running in the background.
How can you do a force quit on it?
I tried.
Well, there are a couple different ways to do it.
I'll need to get your other suggestions on it.
Yeah, do a, let's see, a
Command.
Shift.
Yeah. Q. I tried that.
A minute.
That's quit all applications, which is not what I want to do.
Command Shift Escape.
Oh no, and I can't stop it now.
No.
It won't let me quit the.
Control. Oops, I did something wrong.
Well, I can't click on the screen that says, "Are you sure you want to quit all applications?" to cancel it. So in 39 seconds, it's going to log out everything.
You shouldn't have done that.
Literally the mouse.
Hit escape. Can you hit escape?
Yes. Worked.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Did it cancel it?
It did. I think, I don't know, either that or it just moved it
or you
somewhere.
can do command period. Sometimes that will cancel things.
Okay. I don't know. How about after the show, you tell me how to.
Okay. Yeah. Let's don't do it now.
No, right now it's just doing nothing in the background. It's just taking up screen space that I can't get it to go away from. But it's.
I have a couple different ways to quit apps that just refuse to quit.
Yeah, it's being very stubborn.
Okay. So. All right. Is Dana still there?
I'm here.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at a frozen view. I had to pull up the chat room again because when I left, it messed up my chat room. So now I'm back, so I can go ahead and get rid of that. Okay. Let's do a sound check, and then we can do our clapping. Maybe.
Yes.
Let's see.
No, I don't want to install a new version of Audio Hijack. No.
You do after the show, though.
Yeah, I know. I'll do install on quit. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, you heard that? Did you hear that?
No.
Heard what?
Oh, no.
Heard nothing.
Nev tech to the rescue for me. Thanks. Nev, I'm going to do that after we quit the show today.
You're quite right, Liz.
So you're not
Bed
hearing
before
that?
midnight is not going to happen.
How'd you do in the marathon stuff?
Well, we're going to get to it in just a minute, unless you want me to spoil it for everyone in the chat room.
No.
Why is it not working? Be right with you. You can't hear that either.
Nope.
Quite right, Ivor. British internet is jolly good.
Damn it.
The internet seems to be the only thing that's working on my technology side of things right now.
How's your painted toes? Has the paint
They
stayed
are
on?
all intact. All of the paint is still there.
Paint's still brilliant. I was trying to explain to Julia. I said, Steph painted her toenails. They're all blue except one that was yellow, and they're all there still intact. And she's going, "What are you talking about?"
Like, why do you know that?
Yes, exactly.
That's weird.
Yes. So
right now I'm wearing my blue and yellow shoes.
matching
Austin,
toes and shoes. Very good.
Marathon edition version of my shoes. So of course I had to buy them.
Very cool.
Very nice.
Now, are they actually sort of shoes you could run a marathon in?
These are the exact shoes I ran the marathon in, except not the same ones. The ones I wore were black, but I do wear this model shoe.
Well, there you go.
Although for my next marathon, I think I'm going to wear different shoes, but we'll see. To be decided still.
Who sponsors you?
Apparently Adidas. They don't know it yet. But
yeah. If only they knew.
Fan. I've been running in Adidas shoes, some variant of them, for the past 5 years since I've started running marathons.
I can see through them, Steph.
Yes, I know.
You're supposed to be able to see through your shoes?
They're very light.
Oh, wow. I'm impressed. shoe technology has taken off, unlike airplane technology, which seems
Yeah,
to be coming apart at the seams.
Shoe technology is far ahead of airplane engine technology, apparently. Although the most recent shoes I bought advertised, so all the shoes have these, various different types of foam polystyrene soles now that are supposed to
Right.
return energy back. The most recent ones I bought on the insert advertised made with aerospace engineered foam materials or something. I don't know, whatever it said. They were trying to imply that it was
Like we have some special foam that
there's
keeps airplanes
special foam
flying.
that insulates airplanes that they use for the shoes.
Yeah, we can hear it this time, Jeff.
Pilot guy.
All right, figured
Got
it
it.
out. Okay, so Captain Nick and I actually did a test drive of this home setup, and I did adjust one of the sliders on my mixer, Nick. That's why I just didn't think that channel was necessary, but apparently it is for you to.
All channels are necessary.
Yes, it was necessary. Okay, good. Figure that out. Okay. Let's see, 320. Let me make sure that I'm actually activating the proper mouse or trackpad because I have 3 of them to choose from. And one more thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, we got to do that. Hang on, just hold that. Airline pilot people. Oh, really? You too? Et tu, Brutus?
We didn't want to make
Wow.
that announcement official yet, Nick.
You
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, you spilled the beans.
Coffee filter.
So how's Miami Rick?
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah, we're
He's okay?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit worried about him. His muscles are bigger than his head now, which actually takes some doing.
you have to work at that.
Yep.
Okay. I'm trying to get together what I'm going to say for when we end this episode thing. So
It starts with 3, 2, 1.
yeah. Thank you. Dang it. Let's see.
That's a very lovely picture of an A320 in the show notes
Thank you.
in honor of the.
It's episode 320.
As soon as I wrote it down, though, that's like the only thing you can think of, right?
Yeah. So I saw that and I went, oh, 320.
And the next one you can do a 321. We missed out on 318, 319.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it. I don't know why. Okay. Snapchat pilot fired. And an F-22 Raptor skids to a halt. Okay.
22 Raptor pilot has skid marks.
Yeah, you know what? If you guys want to help me with this kind of thing, that'd be great.
What are we supposed to be doing?
Well, like in today's episode, in the intro, where I always do in today's episode, and then I always forget to do this.
Yeah, we used to do that. We used to
No, I didn't mean the kind of stuff that you did. You messed that thing up. I don't need
to
that.
help a lot.
I don't need that.
I know.
Kind of help.
Very useful suggestions.
Not help. Not help.
Yeah, today.
And I kind of chastise them for doing it, so they stay away from it now. Of course, he always updates his plain tail information, but that's the same sentence where you do the plain tail thing.
Yeah, part 3. Just
See.
put part 3 instead of part 2.
Well, I got
Next
part
week.
3.
Yeah, next week will be different. Assuming you've got part 3 queued up. I've got the next one
It
ready
doesn't
already,
Excellent.
which is a good one, actually. That's an interesting accident, that one.
Raptor with skid marks. I like that.
I think I finally found the perfect location.
Let's see.
Well, underwater.
Well, I could have done that actually, probably.
I can see what it looks like when you're on just the little thumbnail, but there we go. Okay.
You're behind an open sewer, yeah?
Yeah, there's a big sewer. It's a little tropical island and
Tropical sewer?
in the little bay here, with my background with me.
I'm a connoisseur of sewers.
Very good.
Interesting.
Potty mouth, trash mouth.
Okay, I think I'm ready. Finally. Oh, all right. Let me get the recorder going.
And I've got my back to the wind.
You're back to the wind. That's always a good thing when you're taking
Having
a
a
piss.
pig.
Yes. Or
That too.
farting.
Yes. All right. Ready?
Oh. Yep.
3, 2, 1. Very good. All right. Here we go. Note the time. What time is it? 4:26. 4:26. Here we go. And if you can mute yourself, Dana, until you... yeah, thanks. Much appreciated.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 320.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Is that like really, really loud to you guys?
Well, it's
Yes.
loud, but it's not deafening.
It's deafening to me, so I need to adjust something on my end here.
They call
So
it
to
a
speak.
volume.
Well, they call it volume, gain, pot, potentiometer, all kinds of different things.
Pot? You need to adjust your pot?
I need to adjust my pot.
Hmm.
Yeah, as long as it's not too overwhelming for you guys, that's okay.
It wasn't
Alright.
overwhelming. It was just loud.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put those down a little bit. Let's see. How's this?
Yeah, he's up in the sky.
That better?
No
Seemed the
change.
same.
Okay.
No change.
Oh, that's the wrong slider. Okay.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 320.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A in the APG headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show was recorded on the 19th of April, 2018.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. It's a ride and it's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, Snapchat pilot fired, Raptor with skid marks, and a Southwest flight has engine issues. More news, your feedback, and this week's Plane Tale, the Sir Glenn Torpy interview, part 3. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. Flight 320 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It is an aviation podcast. And joining me today, first I should tell you that I'm a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And now, joining me from her beautiful lakeside cottage in South Carolina,
Doctor,
a doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training jockey, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, Dr. Steph.
Hey, that's me. Hi, Captain Jeff. Good to see you.
Hi.
Glad to be back with you guys for another wonderful installment of this fine show. I feel like I should apologize in advance for the amount of pollen that's in the air, and it's really irritating the back of my throat, and I can hear it when I talk. So I'm not really feeling like allergic with it, but it's bothering me nonetheless. So.
Well, I don't hear any of that myself, so you sound great. So.
Good.
And speaking of sounding great, wow. There's this guy from his country estate outside of London, professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London. Captain Nick.
Hello. Hello there, Jeff. Great to be back on the show from a very, very warm United Kingdom this evening. A lovely day.
Excellent. Glad to see you, sir. And last but not least, from the tropical paradise of the Cayman Islands, barbecue master, bourbon connoisseur, motorcycle riding pilot for a major U.S. legacy carrier, soon to be Captain Dana.
Well, hello, everybody. Great to be joining you remotely today. A little bit remote, actually, in the middle of an ocean, in the really the Caribbean, isn't it? Unfortunately, a great short for me today, and using my wide lots of wind today. So, look forward to another great show with you guys.
Well, we're glad that you had an opportunity to join us this week, Dana. We knew you were going to be down there vacationing and diving and having a great time. And let's start off with you. Catch us up on what you've been up to.
Well, I know everybody can't necessarily hear me the greatest today. I'm using my body. We've got a pretty stiff northwesterly wind, probably about gusting 15, 16 knots, close to 20 miles an hour. So if you hear a little noise in the background, I'm doing my best to block it out. But I know most listeners are listening and not viewing it. But behind me, I've got a little tropical island with a lot of palm trees on it, enjoying some great sunshine. This week has been a great week of scuba diving. Had a little bit of weather. Captain Nick over there is getting the advance of it with some nice weather. We sent that all the way from the Caymans, just for you, Captain Nick.
You're so kind. I had a funny feeling that mainland Europe was responsible for that, but obviously not. I shall tell the Met men.
I think it's a lack of fish urine is what is causing that wonderful weather you're having.
Well, you should say that.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw plenty of fish poo. And next time anybody gets on the sand, of course, I've never mentioned this before, but do you know where sand comes from? It is indeed fish poo. So
Okay.
now you know the name, and I've never videotaped it because I've always respected the privacy of the fish. But they chew on specifically, real specific is parrotfish. They love to chew on coral, and next thing you know, you have a cloud of IFR conditions right in front of you. And that's because the parrotfish saw you, looked at you, and said, "Here, poo, poo, poo. Here's some sand for you." So have had a fantastic week of diving. I'm not going to be able to join everybody for the entire show today because, well, I've got some more fun and games and trouble to get into here on this wonderful island, Grand Cayman. One of my favorites. It's actually a former British colony, or is a British colony. I don't quite know, Nick. Maybe you do, but certainly a British influence here in Grand Cayman.
I think it's probably
week of diving.
independent now, Dana. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been let in.
Ouch.
Yes, because I know you have Interpol over there in England looking for me. So yeah, probably never would have been let in. But certainly a great opportunity. Of course, my last real big time to have off before I go through training, which I'm not even going to talk about because I don't want to put myself in a bad mood. So we're not going to go there. But things down here in the Cayman Islands are wonderful. Other than there's a big storm that came across the United States this past week, all the way up from the Maritimes. This cold front stretched all the way down into the Central America area, Honduras and Costa Rica, and it affected the weather here in the Cayman. So if watching the weather chart, it was a massive cold front, caused a lot of wind issues here, and they had to postpone scuba diving for us. Fortunately, Cayman is a great island that you can move to different parts of the island. We were on the leeward side via bus and still got to do at least boat dives. So having a great time down here. I appreciate time to come on and say hello to everybody because I, of course, miss the community as always and miss my friends Nick, Captain Nick, Captain Jeff and Captain Steph, all of you I miss very dearly.
Did you say captain?
Captain.
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 Oh,
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain. Captain.
Captain.
That's what
I do have. I do have one more thing to add.
Yes.
And it was so funny because the resort that we stay at for diving is right on coral. So they limestone coral. So the boat has to make a very delicate approach to a cutout inside the coral and coral on both sides and in front. And if it's choppy at all, it can be quite interesting. Well, this particular boat captain took 5 tries to get it into the slip. So every time he kept on coming back around, there was this little tune going through my head. I'm not going to sing it, but we all know what that tune is. But that's my APG experience of the week is watching this poor captain with about 35, maybe 40 people watching him trying to put this boat in slip. There you go. So it even applies to boating.
It applies for so many things, actually.
Yes.
It
Life
can,
advice, really.
Yes.
I was indeed sitting there chuckling with that song going through my head, thinking, okay, here I am in the Cayman Islands watching a boat captain go around. Back to you, Jeff.
Did you
back in the studio.
Did you start singing it out loud?
I actually, honestly, I did. And everybody's looking at me like, what's going on? You can always go.
And he
So
goes,
people
watch
are
that
like,
guy over
wait
there.
a minute, what's going on here? I said, well, I do this podcast with a great group of people that, of course, the listeners out there, and we know this tune, and that kind of explained the whole thing out loud to them, and everybody's looking at me like I'm kind of weird, but that's okay. I had the hat on the whole week, and all right. So I guess we'll talk about this one other thing: the hair hat, which most of you may or may have not seen. But I actually have a bandana that I wear when I'm scuba diving. That's a hair hat. So yeah, you can always find me under the water as well. So yeah, all types of good stuff going on.
That's awesome.
Anyways, I'll hand it back to you guys. Thank you for the opportunity to come on hello today, and looking forward to staying on with you guys a little while longer. I'll just be listening, and so you don't get all the background noise. And really looking forward to hearing what Dr.
Feel free if you feel like you need to add something. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'll be listening. Well, sounds good.
All right. Excellent.
Cheers, Dana.
Good to see you, Dana. Let's see. So, Nick, let's go next with you and what you have been up to since the last show.
Not a great deal.
All right, we'll move on then to. Oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Still not working a whole lot.
Feel free.
And,
Yeah, still not flying. Keeping my ear to the ground. In the meantime, I'm actually setting up a big room at the.
Dana, are you okay?
Dana, have you fallen off the pier?
Are you being blown away by the gale force winds?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think I can do something about that. Hang on.
we've got a nice big
There we
room
go.
I got
downstairs.
it. It's all set. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Are you sure he's an airline pilot?
They've flown together. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
He
Yeah.
seems to know what he's doing in the airplane.
I put it in my pocket.
Okay.
Right. There's a big room downstairs. I'm setting up as a studio and a workroom. So in a few weeks, I'll be able to do the show from down there. It'll look quite snazzy, I think, when it's all done. But we're currently ripping the place apart, pulling the carpet up, and all that kind of stuff. So being a busy boy.
Excellent. All right. Did you have a guest join you today at your?
Oh yeah, Nev was down just to the south of me in Portsmouth, and as he was heading home, we spotted him on social media and invited him in for a drink. Unfortunately, he parked this lurid yellow banana in front of my house. And
How
immediately,
embarrassing.
the telephone just rang off the hook then from all the neighbors complaining that there was some
eyesore.
appalling, tasteless vehicle outside of my house. But
Property
was like-
values. You have to think about that.
Very true. Very true. It was lovely to see Nev.
I love Nev's
We
car.
had him over for
It's
lunch and then put him on his way as quickly as we could back in his yellow monster back up north. But it was great
I
to
love
see
your
you, Nev.
car,
Nev,
do.
I love your car. Just to be clear, I really do.
You're just kidding around.
Yeah,
But it's fun to tease Nev and his
You
very
bet.
bright yellow car. All right. You know why that's so bright yellow or yellow orange or whatever you call it? It's so that he can find it because he's getting kind of old. And it makes
The more
it
you can make
easier.
things stand out, it's just
Yeah. Although he
in
claims
so many ways it's
people-
true, Steph.
people still try and drive into him. I said, not that they don't see you; it's they hate the color.
Always striving to make it stand out better. That's Nev.
harsh.
Oh, that is harsh.
Sorry, Nev.
Sorry. We're having fun at his expense.
We are moving on.
Moving on. Family show, right? Let's see if I can find that one. Yeah.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
I'm doing better today with those.
New setup works.
Well, yeah. Thanks. I had a great trip this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday trip. On Monday, I ended up going to Greensboro, North Carolina, and I was going to try to meet up with one or both of the hosts of Opposing Bases podcast. Not that they're anywhere near that location, but they're in the state of North Carolina somewhere, I think. Anyway, because of their schedules and mine, it just didn't work out, except that RH said that, hey, guess what? I'll be flying on your flight early tomorrow morning to Atlanta. I guess he was heading up to Philadelphia for some kind of a conference. And so, yeah, we saw RH. And actually, honestly, I kind of forgotten that he was going to be at the airport meeting us or meeting me. And I saw this guy walking toward us as we were walking toward the gate. And I'm thinking, oh, no, it's the FAA. It's an FAA. I thought
Surely
it was
he looks too young to be an FAA inspector, because that's one thing that I was quite taken aback when I saw his picture.
He is a young-looking man, but
He is a
I've seen
young-looking
some
man.
FAA guys that age.
Really?
Anyway, maybe perhaps that was should have been a flag. I should have known, but and then I quickly recovered from that and realized, oh, that's right, RH is going to be meeting me at the airport, and so got him to board early and gave him the cockpit tour and had a great time. And it was great seeing you, RH. Got to see AG. The last trip in when we were in Norfolk, Virginia. So I've met
Nice.
both of the hosts of Opposing Bases.
So next time you're on the approach, you're going to get like number one. You're going to get priority. You're going to get shortcuts on the taxiways. It's going to work for you.
Only in one particular airport in the United States.
Yeah, so this one airport that I was flying into, I heard the story about a supposed Acme pilot that flew a visual approach, but ended up messing things up in the pattern because the controller thought that this said airline pilot would, turn his base pretty quickly after he claimed that he had the airport in sight and it was cleared the visual approach. But this Acme pilot continued out to about a 20-mile final before. I have no idea why he did that. But anyway, that kind of messed things up for this controller because, there were other airplanes that he was trying to sequence and everything else. And one way to get around that is just to say, you're cleared the visual, turn a, base, a beam, the marker or something like that, just to kind of give some restrictions or whatever. Anyway, that became known as the, well, let's see, how do I put this? The Acme final visual, or Acme visual, I think.
Acme visual.
So I came in, Brent was, I was flying the airplane, but Brent was on the radios. And I said, hey, do you mind if I make a radio call here? And he goes, yeah, sure, go ahead. And so I said, airport's in sight. And he goes, cleared the visual. And I said, can we get the Acme visual? And the guy chuckled a little bit, and he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, do you know what I'm talking about?" And he said, think so, but I'm not sure. And so I explained the whole thing, and he goes, "Yeah, I thought that's what you might be alluding to." And I said, "Don't worry,
Excellent.
I'm not really going to do the Acme visual." And so we had a nice little chuckle.
I
on
have
that
more
radio.
sense than that.
Excellent.
So anyway, yeah, it was a nice quiet layover in Greensboro. My daughter is not too far from there, and she was kind of busy with tests and stuff like that. So I took a pass on driving over there to the school to bother her. I didn't want her to feel like, she had to see her dad, even though I'm paying for everything. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding actually. But I get to see her next week. Let's see. So going from Greensboro early on that flight with RH to Atlanta, and then we continued on to Newark. And as I was going through security, I was walking up, and I see this guy standing there, and he's holding a tablet, like you've seen the limo drivers and stuff at the airport, and they have the little iPads or Windows tablets or Android tablets with your name on it or somebody's name. Well, this guy was holding, and I looked at it, I thought, well, that looks familiar. And it was the big logo, my airline pilot guy logo on it. I'm going, at first I'm thinking, oh, it's the Golden Touch limo service coming to pick us up. And I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. They wouldn't know that I do a podcast called the Airline Pilot Guy. And then I looked up at him and I'm going, hey, this guy kind of looks familiar to me. And I noticed he was wearing one of those bright yellow fluorescent
High-vis.
high-vis coats. And I went, I bet this is Paul De Silva. And it was. Hey, Paul. I had no idea. Didn't even think of even letting him know I was going to be going through Newark because, it was only going to be a short period of time. So I got a chance to meet with him for a few minutes and catch up with him. So that was great, Paul, meeting you in person. And I told him to continue to send us some great.
I met him in Europe. What a lovely guy.
Yes, very much so. And then we eventually made it to Manhattan. We had to wait for like 45 minutes before our wonderful limo service finally got there. But we made it to downtown in Manhattan, 45th and Madison at the Roosevelt Hotel. And we had a New York City meetup planned. And after some technical problems, I was telling Nick before we started recording what I did. So I have my handy Zoom H6 or H5.
To technical problems.
Well, it was a technical problem with my brain.
I think it's a medical problem.
It never happens.
Medical. That's technical. That's technology and medicine. So I had my H5 with me and my microphone, ATR 2100, and I'm all set. And so I pull that thing out and put it all together, and I noticed that there's a red light on the Zoom, and I can hear myself in the earbuds. I'm thinking, oh, this is sounding great. So we started to do our round around the table, and finished with that. Oh, it was awesome. The things that were said were just amazing. And then I looked down and I thought, okay, I'm going to hit the thing to stop the recording. Oh, well, that light's not on. Oh, well, why?
Oops.
Why is it not recording? And then I remembered that I never put the SD card, the memory card, back into it. It's right over here in this computer that's on my desk at home. I went, oh. So how did you think that went, everybody? Let's do that. That was a rehearsal. And I thought, no problem. I'll take my ATR 2100 and with my USB cable, I'll connect it to my iPhone. It'll sound almost as good. And then I realized I didn't have a USB cable with the adapter on it. So I went, okay, forget the nice microphone thing. And we're just going to use the iPhone just by itself, a la natural. So that's what we did. And this is what we captured from that. AI to rescue. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here at Stout, New York City, near Grand Central Station. This is take 2. I just went around the table here with a bunch of just very, very wonderful people and very patient, understanding people, because I just realized that the Zoom H5 that I use to record everything doesn't have a card in it. So we're going to try this again, this time with the iPhone. And if it doesn't turn out very well, you should have been there the first time, because these people have just wonderful things to say. We'll start with Dave Abbey.
Hey, hello, everyone in the APG community. It's Dave, and had a great meetup. Jeff, thanks for coming out. Thanks for all you do. And just great hanging out with a bunch of New York City Av geeks. and Jeff telling us all about the stories of how thorough of a walk around he does every single time on the Mad Dog.
Yes, that's true.
Hey, Roger here. This is great, especially since we didn't have our meetup last week because a certain British pilot who shall not be named wimped out. But Jeff was here, and this was terrific. And what a great bunch of people.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. Now we're going to move over here. I'm going to run around the table so I can get closer to Tracy.
Hello, APG friends and family. This is Tracy. This is my first meetup, and I had a wonderful time. Thank you, Captain Jeff.
Short and sweet. Thank you.
Hey, APG community. Jonathan Alexandrados here. I'm extremely grateful to Captain Jeff for letting me use him as my personal therapist as I try to get over my fear of flying. But I'm leaving here more terrified than ever. Help!
Sorry.
Hello, Captain Jeff. I'm glad to be here with Tanya, who brought me here for this meetup. I'm glad to have met you.
Good to see you again.
Hello, wonderful APG crew and fabulous APG community. This is Tanya, otherwise known as Tanya W in the chat. And we've just been having a ball tonight, just chatting, getting to know each other much better. It was great to spend more time with Captain Jeff. And I am going to be sending in an audio feedback very soon. And until then, au revoir.
All right. Grand time. I'm sorry I had to put everybody through another recording, but anyway, it was worth it. We had a great time, and that's it. So back to you, Jeff, in the studio.
Thank you, Jeff. Got the handoff. Did you notice my voice was a little hoarse?
Just a little.
Yeah, it was noisy in there, and as Tanya said in the chat room, hi Tanya. That was at the end of our meetup, and several drinks later and a lot of talking. It took its toll on my voice, but it was a great time. Really enjoyed it, and everybody was disappointed that Nick couldn't make it last week, but I told him.
At least that's what they said.
That's what they said.
Yeah, a little horse is called a pony, by the way.
Pardon me?
A little horse is called a pony.
Okay, so what would you say then? How about if I spell it? Horse. Did I spell that right? Hoars. Horse. E. Oh, anyway. Let's see. We also have just another mention. We talked about it on the last show. A meetup down under Wings over Illawarra on the 6th of May or 5th of May. I'm sorry. I still have 6th here. I should probably correct that so I don't make that mistake again. Let's see, Matt Bunting Frame is going to be down there, and he said meet up at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 5th of May. Wear your APG or PTUK t-shirt for a group photo. So make sure if you're down that way that you show up there at the broadcast tower at 10 a.m. And today, I don't know, if you're listening to the audio, obviously you can't see my hair.
Perfectly coiffed.
Yes, because my wonderful barber did a wonderful job of, I told him not to cut it so short this time. He really cut it short last time. And I know that he was going to make a trip to somewhere in Colorado, and I asked him how that was going or how that went. And he said, oh, it was great. And I also got a really great deal up to New York and went up there. And then on the way back, he said he was in the gatehouse up there at LaGuardia. And they made an announcement, and they said they'd pay $50 to anybody who would sing on the public address system there at the gatehouse. And he said, I'll do that. And so he walked up and he sang a song for $50. And I said, did they pay you $50? And he said, yes, they did. And so I said, how would I find that? And he told me how to find his video on YouTube. And I said, you know what? And he didn't even know I did a podcast. I said, you're going to be on a show today because we're recording today. I'm going to play you singing at the LaGuardia airport. And he said, yeah, look for Yakov International Singer. So sure enough, here it is.
We do have an international singer here, ladies and gentlemen. International singer. I have Yakov. Please give a round of applause for Yakov.
Now, Yakov, I'm pausing it for a moment, is from Russia, and he's a Jewish, has a Jewish background, and so he said that the song that he sings is not in English but in Yiddish, I think. So if you're out there, if you understand Yiddish, let me know if that's right or wrong.
Good morning, everybody. I like to sing. I was 30 years play accordion and play and sing, and I wanna sing for you. And everybody have to be clap. No. Like read. Çakıra çakiden girer, zülfoş kamiden girer. Çakıra çakiden girer, zülfoş kamiden girer. Ahayrı hidden ona, Arap çakinden girer. Mirabi yo mirabi, handa kunon mirabi. Mirabi yo mirabi, handa kunon mirabi. Handa kunon çi boşa, cilve kunon mirabi. Handa kunon çi boşa, cilve kunon mirabi. Çak çak. Check.
A little bit of hip hop at the end. It sounded like, I don't know. Anyway, yes, that is my barber. I didn't realize he was so talented.
That is brilliant. I love it.
That sounds like to me.
It sound what?
That
Yiddish?
sounds like Yiddish to me.
All right, that's what he said, I think. And I didn't realize he had...
I think so. I mean, I'm of course of the non-Gentile religion, and did you?
Is that a rooster?
that was a rooster. I think he agrees too.
That reminds me.
That sounds like a Yiddish chant to me.
Yeah, and I didn't realize he was so talented that he had played accordion and sang for 30 years. I think that's what he said at the very beginning. So anyway, I'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can watch the video of him singing at the LaGuardia airport. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Can you keep your cock quiet, please, Dana?
This is my big cock. You see, it's walking. See it?
Oh boy!
You guys can't see it, but I get a huge cock I'm chasing.
Family show.
Yes, thank you.
I'm talking about the damn rooster.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Okay.
And what a beautiful cock it is.
Wow.
Feel free to edit that.
Oh my! That's funny.
Wow.
He showed a picture of
it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
That's
glad I
going to go
didn't
at
see
the
that
end
picture.
instead of my if it ain't Bowen, I ain't going. That is it's gotta replace that now, please.
Okay, I'll have to make sure I get a little. Okay. Wow.
Sorry.
I think I'm turning red.
I think I did. About 10 shades.
So how many times have we longed to hear that out of Steph's mouth? All right, here we go. Moving on. So that was today. I learned of my barber's special talent. And so if you're watching Jack, or he goes by Jack at the Jack and Sons Barbershop in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Excellent. Shame you couldn't cut your hair.
Okay, let's see. Anything else that we should talk about before we move on with the coffee hunt?
I haven't told you what I did last weekend.
Oh my goodness! You know what?
But that's fine. Moving on.
Oh, you know what I did? Normally, you go earlier, and I thought I'm going to wait to do yours because you have amazing news about what you just did and accomplished this past week. So I'm so sorry, Steph. So please, before further ado, please tell us what has anything been happening in your life since we last.
Nothing.
Okay, let's move on then.
So actually, going back to last week, Thursday, before the weekend stuff that we're going to get into, you've heard of that guy Captain Cool who sends us feedback and stuff occasionally.
Bill Cool or William Cool?
Bill Cool. Yep, he had he is a pilot for a regional airline and had a layover here in Charlotte. So we were able to get together and have a little mini meetup and some sushi and beers. Did not manage to record any audio, so meh. But we had a great time, lots of good conversation, aviation talk, the usual. So my thanks to Captain Cool for spending a little bit of time of his layover with me. So it was very nice. But anyway, we kind of called it an early evening because he had to get up early for his flight, and I had a busy day on Friday because not only did I work all day, but I had to travel up to Boston in the afternoon, evening. I think we got in pretty late, actually, kind of like 11 p.m., 10 p.m. But I was there for the 122nd installment of the Boston Marathon. So I ran with a charity. Most people actually time qualify to get into the race, but I had a couple of friends running this year and really wanted to join them for that, and had a wonderful was able to make a wonderful donation to a very worthy cause in the town of Hopkinton. Am I saying it right, Dana? You can continue to correct me. Looks like Hopkinton to me, but whatever. So anyway, that was how I ended up there, and really put in a lot of training and Hopkinton. Yeah.
And did you say Boston?
You did it right.
Okay, good. Thanks. I did say
you say
Boston.
Boston?
I said Boston.
Boston.
I'm sorry.
Love it.
I love that
Absolutely
song.
love it.
Go ahead.
Yes. So up there for the marathon, the 122nd installment of the marathon, and so I had a really good training cycle leading up to this, starting kind of near the beginning of the year, getting ready for running a long race. I didn't initially think it was going to be Boston. I'm actually signed up to run a marathon 10 days from today in Hamburg, Germany, which is what I was really training for. But then when the opportunity came up to join in with the charity last minute, I jumped on that. Went through a kind of a rough patch in March, February and March, where I had tendonitis in my foot and ankle. And I think in part because of that, I tripped on one of my long training runs and broke my finger back at the beginning of March. So it was a little bit of rough going there, but came back from all of that. I have a wonderful physical therapist who I actually saw today. She's amazing. I am such a fan of physical therapy. They can get you through all kinds of injuries, and when you're just kind of a menace to yourself, they can bring you back from that. So got up there, and as you do before a big race, everyone starts kind of watching the weather about a week or two out, and they're calling for just the worst weather imaginable for a race. They were calling for maybe low 50s, but pouring rain, driving winds, headwinds the entire way. And everyone goes, that's 2 weeks out. It's New England. There's no chance this forecast holds up. It's going to change. Well, it changed a little in that the actual temperature got colder. So at the start, I think when I started, it was 38 degrees. It rained the entire day. I should say on Saturday, I ran the 5K, and it was gorgeous conditions for running on Saturday. Kind of nice partial overcast skies and 50-something degrees. But yeah, by the time we got to Monday, the weather forecast came true, and it was torrential rains, kind of kept coming through in waves, 30+ mile an hour headwinds at times. There were gusts of probably closer to 40. There was one gust where I kind of got pushed, several steps off to the side, off the course, because we weren't quite on the wind line there. And, everyone was going, well, gosh, what are we going to wear? Like, this is just really bizarre conditions for a marathon. Normally you'd wear not a whole lot of clothing, something light, something that's not going to weigh you down. But it really was truly cold and windy, and oh, thanks, Captain Nick. Oh, that's for you, Jeff. I thought I was going to say he loves me, but no. Anyway.
I know. It would seem to be an appropriate comment for him to make on his scrolling machine there.
So, but anyway, apparently, they were calling it the Boston Monsoonathon, which is accurate. It was the most rain and wind I've ever experienced on any run ever, training, race, otherwise. It was pretty horrible. But apparently those are my conditions, because I set a new personal best time by over 13 minutes, broke the 4-hour mark in the marathon, and wow. I couldn't be happier. So
was that mainly because it was so miserable you just wanted to be over as quickly as possible?
That went through my mind a little bit, but I really felt well trained for the race. I always run with my watch so I can check times and splits and things like that, but my hands were frozen. I had gloves on. I had a spare pair of gloves, which I swapped out halfway through. Didn't really help too much. I had my fine motor movement in my fingers was pretty worthless. So being able to even just like get my hand and wrist out from under my poncho, because I ran with a poncho the entire way. That's so distracting, Nick. It really is.
Nick, if you're listening to the audio, has his little tablet scrolling information, messages, etc. And she said,
but thank you.
Dr. Steph is amazing. And that's true.
So, but anyway, usually I would, just glance at my watch every once in a while to see. So the way this marathon works, it's not like most of the marathons I've run, which are basically circuits, so that you start and finish in the same place. In Boston, it's a point to point. So you start 26.2 miles outside of town and you run all the way back into town. So they bus you out there and you have to go through this athlete's village to get to the start corrals. And usually it's kind of this nice grassy area with these tents set up and some food and all kinds of services. It was really just a big mud pit on Monday, like quicksand equivalent mud, where you could probably step in it in places and sink into up to your knees in mud. It's kind of hilly in some spots, and people were kind of slipping and sliding and falling down into the mud before the race even started. So it was pretty gross. Most people brought extra shoes to just discard and change into new shoes before the race started, which is the first time I've ever seen that happening. I did that. It was worth it. And what else about it? Yeah. So by the time, so I was starting near the back of the pack with the charity runners, and normally it's very organized because the roads aren't very wide and they have 30,000 people to get out on this course. So they put everyone into waves and corrals based on how fast their predicted finish time is. By the time they got to wave 4, which was me, they weren't doing the corrals at all. They just wanted everyone out of Athletes Village so that you wouldn't get hypothermia. And they were just saying, go, just go. So I have no idea what time I even crossed the start line. I didn't look at my watch then. I didn't look at the time on the clock, which is out on the course. So the only time I really glanced at it was about halfway through, and it was a fast first half marathon for me. And I was a little worried that I went out too fast because it's downhill through the beginning. And it's really hard to control your speed there sometimes. And then the rest of the back half of the course has some pretty decent hills that are kind of notorious, Heartbreak Hill and whatnot. But yeah, it turned out to be a really good race for me. And that barely even looked at the
hills, but also headwinds, right?
Hills and headwinds and driving. I mean, just soaking torrential rains. It was raining. It's the amount of rain that was coming down. I don't know the rainfall rate, but it was pretty significant. And that would happen probably once every mile or so. You just get this 30-second to minute-long just bout of soaking torrential rains. So
I was listening to something on the radio, and they were talking about the race, and they said a lot of the elite runners either didn't run at all, or I'm trying to remember exactly what they were saying.
Quite a few didn't finish.
Yeah.
I think at least 3 of them ended up in the hospital. And I think 80 runners overall ended up in the hospital, mostly being treated for hypothermia. So there were definitely a lot of people off the course in the medical tents. And
so that would make me, as a runner like you, Steph, even feel more proud because, you toughed it out. And not only that, but you set your own personal record.
Yeah, I just, there's a lot of things that have to come together for that to work correctly. And it was a good day for me and not a great day for other people. But I think anyone who really towed that start line deserves a huge round of applause, because even just to think about facing those conditions was pretty tough. That was the only time it was really terrible, was thinking about getting out there in the first place. And then after the finish, having to walk back to my hotel, which was about 3/4 of a mile away. That's where I kind of froze. So I spent probably half an hour in the shower in all my clothes, still just trying to get warm enough so that I could actually, use my fingers to unzip clothing layers.
Steph, was there anything in those conditions that made you kind of grit your teeth and want to push harder than you would normally?
It's funny. Once I was out there and running, it didn't bother me so much. Like it mostly seemed comical. Every time you'd just get one of these huge gusts of wind, or the rain would just start coming down in sheets and buckets. The crowd got louder every time that happened. And
really,
God bless the people of Boston. They were out there. They were out there cheering. Probably half of them, more than half of them, didn't even have someone to cheer on in the race. They were just out there because that's what you do on Patriots Day in Massachusetts and Marathon Monday. You go cheer on the runners, and the volunteers and the medical staff. Just phenomenal job by all of them. It's really a testament to the race they put on.
Good people.
Absolutely fantastic. Oh, and congratulations to you. You sound
Thank
like
you.
you did a brilliant job.
Yeah, and Jeff has asked me before about that runner's high. If I've ever experienced that, I'm still on just this amazing high from that race. It was really incredible, and I don't even know the best way to describe it because the conditions were terrible. It was a long time to be out there, not just during the race, but before and after, and freezing conditions and rain and wind, and it was. I'm so happy about the whole thing. So
Brilliant. Wow.
That's awesome. We're so proud of you, Steph.
Thank you.
Hell of an achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have made it maybe a half a mile.
So, and I know there were people out there who did not the day did not end the way they imagined it, but like I said, I think they all deserve a huge round of applause and congratulations for just attempting it. So
absolutely.
I don't think I've got round in my galoshes.
I saw a couple people running barefoot.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I knew Zola Bud was a great barefoot runner, but not on streets.
Yeah, I just, I could see where if your shoes got really waterlogged and they didn't drain the water very well, you might be tempted to. But I think there were a couple people that just started and ran the whole thing barefoot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're made of stronger things than I am. So
they have tougher feet on the bottom of
tougher
their
soles.
skin on their bottom of the feet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Well,
yeah,
that's awesome.
and I feel great. I didn't really have any recovery issues. I did go to see my physical therapist today, as I mentioned, because it's more of the prehab than the rehab at this point, which is important.
So 10 more days and you're running again.
10 more days and running again. Yep. In Hamburg.
Brilliant.
Well,
I hope it's as good for you there as it was in Boston.
I hope so too. Yeah, I'm curious. It's always kind of an unknown going into a second race so close to a first one, how you're going to hold up even when you think you feel well. So
and what's the forecast for the weather for that race?
Right now, I think it's mid to low 50s Fahrenheit and intermittent rain showers.
So not quite so bad.
Not quite as bad. That sounds much more favorable.
Yeah. So. Well, we'll be there sort of in
spirit.
Cheering you on.
Thank you. I do appreciate all the support. It really means a lot.
Yeah, we're all so proud of you. All right. Excellent. And then as we've mentioned a couple of times, hopefully it'll work out. Steph and I should be together next week, a week from now, recording episode 321 before she heads off to the airport to fly to Germany. All right. I think now is a good time. Unless there's something else I forgot. No?
Not that I can think of.
Let's do the coffee fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right, the Java Jive, Jeff Smith singing the wonderful tune. That's our coffee fund, your way to support the show financially and become part of the coffee fund cadre. Since the last show, Chris Randall sent his recurrent payment in via the Coffee Fund Classic method, PayPal. The other way to do it is to become a patron of the show via patreon.com. And since our last show, Eric Wallace, Sam Franklin, Matt, Lance, oh, never mind. He's no longer with us. Lance, thanks for all your support in the past. Sorry to see you leave. And Alex Michaud. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly or not. Looks like a French last name, and you know how I do with French names. Anyway, so thank you, new producers, for becoming part of the Coffee Fund cadre. If you want to do the same, you have the resources available to you to do so. Please head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee, where you'll find information about how you can become part of the cadre and get those APG crew logs and other good stuff. And just feel good about yourself. Thanks again.
Stand by for news.
The FAA has put out an airworthiness directive. Well, we're going to talk about a couple of airworthiness directives today on the show. This one regarding limiting ETOPS on some of the Rolls-Royce powered 787s. The new airworthiness directive is expected as early as Tuesday that could severely restrict flight operations on some of the Rolls-Royce powered 787s, expected to require inspections and a reduction in the ETOPS long-range operation to 140 minutes from the nearest airport from 330 minutes, sources say. And that's a big deal. That's a huge restriction on the range, the ETOPS range for these airplanes. The inspections have to be made by May 20th, according to preliminary information. If the inspection fails, ETOPS may be reduced to 60, 1 hour. 2 airlines tell this news source, the Leham News, I believe, LNC, not sure. A third source didn't have the numbers, but said the AD is expected to be onerous. The EASA, the European Safety Agency, issued its AD with a April 20th effective date. About 25% of the 787s are powered by Rolls-Royce engines, but not all of those engines are affected. Affected airlines and the Boeing sales force are calling lessors scrambling for any available aircraft, regardless of equipment type, to cover the grounded aircraft or those anticipated to be grounded. We know that there is already, we know some people that fly for, let's say, Acme Red that are kind of doing that, finding airplanes out there on the market that they can use to replace the Dreamliners that are affected by this Rolls-Royce engine issue.
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. I mean, it affects a number of airlines. Acme Red is one of them, and we're bringing aircraft that we had previously put into mothballs back out to supplement the fleet so that it doesn't affect us too bad. But the main difference is I think you'll find a lot of the operators will be moving aircraft around their route structure so that they can put fully ETOPS capable aircraft on those transatlantic routes that might be effective and move the 787s that are having a problem onto routes that go over land, basically. So if you're a mainland American-based airline, you might be using them on more internal flights. And if you're on a European-based airline, you're going to turn them east instead of west and head them off to India, perhaps, or the Far East, where ETOPS is not a factor, because ETOPS only applies, and for those who aren't in the know, extended twin operations only applies really when you're over an ocean. And it allows a twin-engine aircraft to fly over a large body of water where there are no diversion airfields safely. And the limitations in time are a still air flight time between the aircraft and the closest en route diversion should you lose one of your 2 engines. And obviously, when they started pushing twin-engine aircraft over big oceans, it was always a concern what happens if you have an engine failure. And you have to go through quite a rigorous proving system to get an ETOPS qualification. And that qualification increases in time depending upon the standard of aircraft and airline. So the minimum is like 60 minutes. So you always have to be within 60 minutes of a diversion, but that can go out to quite a large figure. It can go out to over 240 minutes if you need it to. Now, obviously, the Rolls-Royce 787s have been having engine problems. And it seems now that the regulators have finally stepped in and thought, well, enough is enough. We're going to limit your ETOPS. 140 minutes is the figure I've heard. So we are talking 2 hours, 20 minutes, which isn't too bad. But there are other regulations that are coming in that involve the frequency of engine checks that need to be done. Full engine checks on the ground by engineers, usually with borescopes and other equipment to confirm the engine is serviceable. that are also providing a lot of delays for those aircraft. So as opposed to what Boeing hoped and said that when the 787 would need one hangar day a month in its life to keep it running, is proving to be something that this is obviously something they didn't predict, and Rolls-Royce obviously aren't very happy with the situation. It could be quite a problem for the company, both Rolls-Royce and the airlines that operate those Rolls-Royce equipped Dreamliners.
I do have to say something. It is ironic how this story is unfolding, because it really was the death of an airliner, worldwide sales based on Rolls-Royce before, going back in history, and that is the L1011. L1011 was almost completely decimated because of the RB211 engine and their failure to get that engine up and running and its delays. So Rolls-Royce, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with those folks over there in England, but Rolls-Royce is not turning out to be a very good engine choice.
Well, don't forget that it's actually quite a small percentage of their engines, only those that are of a particular power performance. And the 78, only about a quarter of the 787s built are powered by Rolls-Royce. So yeah, I have to agree with you. It's very bad for the engine manufacturer, and it's very unfortunate for those airlines that chose to have their Dreamliners equipped with Rolls-Royce. But they are far from the only engine manufacturer that's currently having problems, as we will discuss later.
Yes, and as you mentioned, Captain Nick, the current issue applies only to the Trent 1000 Package C engine variant. So of that 25% of Rolls-Royce powered 787s, it's only a subset of that number that are actually affected. However, I guess initially Boeing wasn't diverting engines from the production lines to airlines that already had aircraft in service, and they were complaining to Boeing that, hey, you need to fix our engines. We've had the airplanes now for a while. We need to have engines that can work so we can make money with these airplanes. So yeah, it's a mess. Definitely a mess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. Moving on here. Remember, on a previous episode, we talked about the Snapchat episode, the couple of EasyJet pilots that were using Snapchat while flying at 30,000 feet or whatever in the air somewhere.
Why
EasyJet,
is it always 30,000 feet?
I don't know.
Just
What's funny about that stuff is that before RVSM airspace rules, it was impossible to be at 30,000 feet unless you were climbing or descending, because unless, I guess there may be some special cases around the world where you could fly at that altitude. But at least in the United States, 29, 31, 33, 35 are all the altitudes. So any
Exactly.
even altitude above 29,000 feet, you couldn't be at.
It's just a nice round number for the media to report.
But now it turns out we cruise at 30,000 feet a lot. So yeah, now it actually fits. Anyway, the Sun reported last month that Captain Michael Castellucci and his co-pilot were caught on their phones playing with the app Snapchat while flying a plane full of passengers at 30,000 feet. The image they took was posted on Mr. Castellucci's social media account, titled "Dancing First Officer in Cruise Doing Paperwork," although he has since deleted his social media accounts. The images captured neither pilot looking at the controls or out ahead through the plane window.
Oh no.
Yeah, wait. We're not always constantly looking at the controls or looking out ahead through the plane window. I mean, we do that, but I don't think the problem here is that, and that's not the reason why he was fired. It was just that you were doing something that could distract you from the normal duties of an airline
And
pilot.
I think they do have policies against use of.
Yeah, I think that's the meat
Social
of it.
media.
I think HR got at them, Steph, and you're the expert. There's absolutely no indication and no suggestion that they were doing something unsafe. but what they were doing was contravening the social media policy of the airline. And because they've got such bad publicity, and I have no doubt that the Sun are going, oh, that's marvelous. We're a great story. But I mean, in doing that, even though these guys weren't actually doing anything that was considered by many to be unsafe, they have lost their damn jobs. I mean, that's a serious thing in the airline industry. So I have to weigh the effect of what they were doing and the repercussions on their careers and say, is this fair?
I don't know. It shows to me a lack of judgment, and perhaps that's the reason why if they have a lack of judgment in this particular situation, perhaps that poor judgment could lead to other problems and safety in the future. I don't know. I don't know all the details here, but
No,
I think
that's
that,
right. But
it was a clear lapse of judgment here too. I mean, it's one thing to do that, but to actually post it out there for thousands or even millions now to see, that just is not using your head.
No, I agree 100%, but surely that just requires retraining.
Yeah.
After all, we can go in the simulator, and occasionally you might make a mistake during an approach. You might make a mistake handling an emergency or doing a procedure, and your trainer goes, well, that wasn't very good. We're going to have to do that again so that you can pass your check ride. So you get retrained, you refly the procedure, you pass it the second time on your move. There doesn't seem to be any of that here. They made a mistake. They allowed themselves to be distracted in the cruise when there was no danger. And yet their mistake has not been treated in the same way that if you actually made a handling mistake in the simulator, which for me is much more serious.
That's true for sure. But how do you train somebody to have good judgment?
And what, I don't know anything about what EasyJet's HR policies say, but if it says no use of phone taking pictures, posting things to social media, blah, 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 and you're in violation of that, and that's something they consider, a termination worthy occurrence, then I don't know how if you're EasyJet, don't follow through on that. Because yes, it is a retrainable thing, and no, it's not necessarily unsafe in that situation, but they have a policy in place for a reason. And unfortunately, because of the nature of social media, it just becomes a very public thing all of a sudden. And yeah,
well,
just poor
I
judgment.
agree. That's, I suspect, the nub of the policy is the fact that it brings the airline into disrepute.
Right. Correct.
So it's bad publicity for the airline, not because it endangered the aircraft or the passengers or anything else. It was bad judgment, and as such, it required treatment from the company. It required some corrective measure. I personally don't think that sacking the guy, which is the ultimate, which is like, it's the worst thing you can do to a bloke. You can't do much else to him in a company. You could possibly demote him. You could take away some money. You could retrain him. You could make him go through an HR course to understand the ramifications of what he's doing, how it reflects on his professionalism, how it reflects on his ability to do his duties fully. But it looks like here they just went for the chopping block straight away. They fired the guy, and the first officer didn't even get that far. He decided to leave the company before they got as far as blemishing his employment history by actually firing him. So, I think social media hones in sometimes like an absolute witch hunt, like a lynch mob. And they want the absolute maximum. They want everyone to be, locked away for life. They want people to receive the maximum possible penalty for something they see as an infringement. There's very little levels of severity that occur. Whereas I think the company might have just shown a little bit of judgment here and said, we treat this very seriously. We've retrained the pilots and they won't be doing it again. But whether they actually needed to sack the guy, I don't know. That seems to be going straight for the worst possible solution. Punishment.
Well, I see your point of view, but I say time to dump him. Wow.
That's pretty tough.
No, I think you can argue that one either way. And I think it's like you said, though, Nick,
I'm
it's just not to keep going on this point, but it's just social media is the public thing. And, the court of public opinion kind of weighed in on that one, probably for EasyJet as well. So.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's the reason they got fired, not because of anything else.
Yeah, I think they could have done something pretty bad to the captain, but it was kind of extreme to fire him. But I have a feeling it won't be the last time we hear. I'm sure he'll get some representation and perhaps get some money from a lawsuit. I don't know.
You never know.
We'll see. And what you have all been waiting for, a big event happened on Tuesday.
Center Southwest 1380, flight level 300 for 380.
Southwest 1380, New York, hello. Southwest 1380, put direct in, CINSC. You don't, put direct in, CINSC. Southwest 1380. Southwest 1380, if you're trying to get me, all I hear is static.
Southwest 1380 has an engine fire descending.
Southwest 1380, you're descending right now?
Yes, sir, we're single engine descending, have a fire number 1.
Alright, Southwest 1380, okay, where would you like to go to? Which airport?
Give us a vector for your closest.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
We're flying 250.
Okay, heading 250. We're looking at Sully. That's
Southwest 1380, roger. Stand by. Southwest 1380 to the Philadelphia airport, direct.
Direct Philadelphia, direct. Southwest 14.
Center Blue Street 5067, 20.8 for 230.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Blue Street 5067, 21.4 for 230.
Blue Street 5067. Southwest 1380, you have traffic just below you.
Say again for Southwest 1380.
Southwest 1380, New York.
Southwest 1380, go ahead.
Southwest 1380, understand, so there's you're a single engine for the fire?
Actually, we're no fire now, but we are single engine.
Okay, you are single engine now. Okay, so that facility, I guess it's, can you maintain 11,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 1380 is going to maintain 11,000.
Okay, down to 11,000.
Yeah, 4919, fly maintain, 320, psycho.
Alright, the 320 direct psycho, 4919.
Southwest 1380, just so I can understand, you said that you are still single engine, and what else?
Okay, Southwest 1380, we're single engine. That's it.
Okay, single engine. Maintain 11,000, you need engine standing by on the ground?
Yes, if you would, have them roll the trucks. It's on the engine number 1, captain side.
Okay, thank you. Southwest 1380, contact New York Center 135.45.
3545, today.
Southwest 1458, you can expect an extended downwind. We have another fellow company airplane coming in that has an emergency that's pretty serious, so we're going to dump him in front of you.
No problem. We're running early, so do what you got to do, 1450.
Hey, join Erie there, maintain 170 knots, please. I'm going to slow you down.
Okay, Erie, 170 on the speed, Southwest 1458.
American 585, also emergency for you, being landing in front of you there, so reduce speed to 170, get you right in as soon as we can.
Phone to 170, American 585, no problem.
Ever 3625, Philly approach, altimeters 2974, expect the ILS 27 right, or, yeah, the 27 right, and you can maybe expect some delay vectors, so we have an emergency landing with a possible engine fire.
Copy that, envoy 3625.
Southwest 1458, turn right, heading 180, expedite your descent to 2100 and get you right in.
Okay, 2100, right turn, Southwest 1458.
We need a single channel, no more channel switching.
Plus 1380, you're on approach frequency 128.4. You're where you should be. Maintain 4,000. And do you need any further assistance from me? What type of final do you want? I heard short or long.
Yeah, we're going to need a long final.
Okay, I'm going to let you drive until you tell me you want to turn base, okay? So that'll be at least a 25-mile final. Longer than that, I'll have to do some coordination, but that'll be fine. We'll get that done for you. You let me know when you want to come in.
Okay, 20 is good, and we may need shorter here in a moment. Tell me the runway we're setting up for.
We're going to set up for 2.
Say again.
Southwest 1380, you'll be landing 27 left. 27 left today. And you just let me know when you need to turn base. Right now, I only have one person in front of you, which is a Southwest, but I'm sure he'll pull off if you need to go right in. Southwest 1458, clear visual approach 27 right. Keep your speed up. I'd like to get you on the ground before I have to turn her base.
Copy that. Speed up, clear base shield 27 right.
Okay, center.
Southwest 1380. 1380, I got a 1458 on frequency. I just cleared him for the approach. Southwest 1380. I understand your emergency. Let me know when you want to go in.
Yeah, we have a part of the aircraft missing, so we're going to need to slow down a bit.
Southwest 1380, speed is your discretion. Maintain any altitude above 3,000 feet, and you let me know when you want to turn base.
All right, down to 3,000, 210 on the speed.
Absolutely. You just let me know anything you need.
Southwest 1380, like to start turning inbound.
Southwest 1380, just start turning southbound there. There's a Southwest 737 on a 4-mile final. Will be turning southbound. Start looking for the airport. It's off to your right and slightly behind you there. And altitude is your discretion. Use caution for the downtown area. Advise you maintain at about 2,200 for the MVA.
Okay, could you have the medical meet us there on the runway as well? We've got injured passengers.
Injured passengers, okay. And is your airplane physically on fire?
No, it's not on fire, but part of it's missing. They said there was a hole and someone went out.
I'm sorry, you said there was a hole and somebody went out? Southwest 1380, it doesn't matter. We'll work it out there. So the airport's just off to your right. Report it in sight, please.
In sight. Southwest 1380, airport's in sight.
Southwest 1380, you're cleared. Visual approach 27 right. Contact the tower on 118.5. Southwest 13, I'm sorry, clear visual approach 27 left. 27 left and towers on 18.5.
We're going on 27 left. Switching tower. Good day.
It's going to be a while for 4666.
There's an emergency inbound right now on the north departures airspace. He's just got the traffic stop while he works him. It shouldn't be more than like 5 more minutes.
Clear tower, airport 10.
Airport 10 tower.
You're required to be about 127 left on CR2. Can you let me know what the next one is?
Sure, we'll let you know when he's on a 5-mile final. Foxtrot 21 tower. Foxtrot 21, ETA probably about 6-7 minutes and stand by. The number 1 engine failure. And it's a Boeing 737, 149 souls on board and 21,000 pounds of fuel.
Left turn heading on 180 and climb and maintain at 3,000. The emergencies needs to come in right now.
Okay, climb and maintain 3,000. North tower, southwest 1380. Landing on 27 right.
Southwest 1380, you want to land 27 right?
27 left, I'm sorry, 27.
Southwest 1380, runway 27 left, clear to land, wind 280 at 19, gust 25.
27 left to land, southwest 1380.
Airport 10, there is a hole in the side of the aircraft also.
Copy. There's a hole inside the aircraft.
And Airport 10 is a short final.
Is he the next one to arrive?
Yes, he is the next one to arrive on about a 2-mile final there.
Copy. City Tower, Airport 10, quarter 27 left on Sierra 2.
Airport 10, proceed on 27 left.
Southwest 1380, right turn when you're able. You want to stop wherever you need to is fine.
Thank you. We're going to stop right at your Barber fire truck. Thanks, guys, for the help.
Okay. A little bit more left in the audio there, and that was cobbled together by, well, several folks tried to do that, various sources. But we have somebody that did that for us, starting from the high altitude, center frequency. It was Nick. Let's see. Let me scroll back up here. Nicholas Collier put all those together for us, starting with the center high frequency. The center low frequency apparently is not part of the live ATC feed, and then it kind of skips through there, and then when they're on approach in Philadelphia, that's where the communications were resumed. So a big thanks to Nicholas Collier for putting that together for us. And so that kind of gives you a feel for what occurred. It was a Southwest Boeing 737-700, registration 772 Southwest, or SW, performing Flight 1380, New York, LaGuardia to Dallas Love in Texas with 143 passengers, 5 crew. They were climbing through flight level 320 out of New York when the left-hand engine was damaged, causing inlet and parts of the cowl to separate from the airframe. Debris impacted the side of the fuselage, shattering a passenger window, causing the loss of cabin pressure. The crew initiated an emergency descent, shut the engine down, diverted to Philadelphia, as we just heard. The aircraft landed safely on runway 27 left, vacated the runway, and stopped on the adjacent taxiway. The crew advised emergency services that their left-hand side was damaged, and they had passengers with injuries inside the cabin. Emergency services foamed the left-hand engine, and the passengers disembarked via stairs onto the taxiway and were taken to the terminal. Passengers reported a woman was nearly sucked out of the aircraft, was pulled back into the cabin by fellow passengers. And then we learned shortly after this whole thing occurred that the woman died from her injuries. In the second media briefing, the NTSB reported one fan blade, number 13 of 24, was broken right at the hub and had separated. The preliminary examination revealed there is evidence of metal fatigue right where the blade separated. There had been no engine fire. There's evidence of an engine fire. However, it's known that it was an engine fire warning. It's possible and even likely that the fire wire activated when the fan blade separated. This is the Aviation Herald description of the accident. Goes on to say the captain was a female, the first officer a male. I'm not sure why that was important, and they did an excellent job. The crew elected to land with the flaps at 5 degrees over controllability concerns. A piece of the engine cowling was found on the ground about 60 nautical miles northwest of Philadelphia. Let's see, on April 18th, which is yesterday, the third media briefing by the National Transportation Safety Board reported first data is available from the flight data recorder. The left-hand engine parameters ran down to 0. Vibrations increased significantly. The cabin altitude alert sounded shortly afterwards. The aircraft made an uncommanded rapid roll to a left bank angle of 41 degrees. The crew decided to use flaps 5 degrees for landing and landed at 165 knots indicated about 22 minutes after the left engine had failed. That was pretty quick, actually. The FAA was able to see some debris falling off the aircraft on their radar screens. They computed the approximate location taking winds into account, and they've found additional pieces of engine cowling as a result of the calculations. Let's see. The fatally injured passenger was seated in row 14. The window area is being looked at to determine how the window became shattered. Interviews with flight attendants and flight crew are ongoing. This was the last seen media briefing. The NTSB has not been able to determine whether the blades of this particular engine were subject to an airworthiness directive a few years ago. Of course, this is yesterday's report from the Aviation Herald, so maybe some of this has changed, but it looks like they do have the root part of the fan blade, and as mentioned before, the fan blade cracked right at the entry into the hub and also fractured about halfway. The initiating event looks like a crack at the hub where fatigue occurred. Now, interestingly, last month, March 26th, the EASA released an airworthiness directive, and it's effective April 2nd. All occurrence was reported of a blade failure on a CFM 56-7B engine, which is this engine type, by the way. The released fan blade was initially contained by the engine case, but there was a subsequent uncontained forward release of debris and separation of the inlet cowl. And I think they're referring to the event in August of 2016. It was another Southwest Airlines 737 with the same type of engine. And we reported it on our show. We talked about it. They were going from New Orleans to Orlando, I believe. And they had the same thing. Number one engine kind of exploded. The one of the fan blades cracked and was released and took out the engine cowling. The fuselage was hit with debris. They did also have an emergency descent and cabin depressurization in that event as well, and they diverted into Pensacola. I think that most people would say that the coverage of that particular event was not as in-depth as this one, but that was the first time that something like this had happened, I guess, with that particular engine. And so because of that, I'm guessing the EASA AD was issued for operators with this particular engine, the CFM 56-7B. And we just have a last-minute update. The Federal Aviation Administration said late yesterday it will issue its airworthiness directive within the next 2 weeks, requiring fan blades of engines known as CFM 56-7B to be reviewed when they reach a certain number of takeoffs and landings. Blades that fail the inspection must then be replaced. And Southwest has already said that all of the CFM 56-7B engines on its Boeing 737 fleet will be reviewed within 30 days as the joint company that creates the machinery, a pairing of General Electric and Safran aircraft engines, announced it was sending 40 technicians to support the thousands of upcoming inspections. So as Nick kind of alluded to earlier, Rolls-Royce is not the only one having issues with its engines. It looks like the CFM, the General Electric Safran conglomerate, is having issues with the CFM 56-7B. Let's see, what else did I want to say here? Good pictures here in the Aviation Herald article, which I'll have a link to in the show notes. Basically, again, it looks identical to that incident that Southwest had in August of 2016, except this time it was a little worse, or a lot worse, because they actually injured a passenger, and the passenger has died. And by the way, I think it's worth noting that this is the very first time in its history that Southwest Airlines has lost a passenger on any
in-flight
incident.
Well, because of an in-flight incident.
Yeah, there was an instance, I think, landing overrun in Birmingham.
No, it's Midway.
Was it Midway? Okay.
Mhm.
That
There was
a gas station and
I don't think anyone.
or-
No, that was a different incident. No one.
Okay.
There were no fatalities with that, but the fatality incident was in Chicago Midway, overrun of the runway there, and there was a car that was impacted in the intersection in the street just beyond the runway. And a 6-year-old passed away.
Okay, so clearly, there's some kind of a maintenance issue here, or perhaps not a maintenance issue, but a technical issue with the engine, the fan blades. Apparently, I did a little research on this. I didn't know a lot about these engines and the fans, and the fact that they kept referring to a dovetail fan blade. And I guess it's a new technology that many of the engine manufacturers now are using, where they can, I guess in the past, whenever there was a issue with a fan blade, they had to actually take the whole engine apart. It was completely taken out of service, and it was a long process, expensive process to replace fan blades. And it wasn't like you could replace an individual fan blade on site. And apparently this dovetail design that it now allows the engine fan blade that might be cracked or showing signs of fatigue can be replaced individually instead of replacing the entire 24, in this case, fan blades all at the same time. So a lot less expensive, and apparently the downtime for the engine is much less. However, looks like it's not without possible problems. And also, just a quick mention, there was a 777, United 777, that was going from San Francisco to Hawaii earlier this year, I believe, that had an engine failure very similar to this one, where it took out the entire engine, the inlet cowling. and they didn't have any pieces hit the fuselage or at least puncture the fuselage, but it was still a very major incident, and it was a Pratt & Whitney 4000 series engine. And again, doing a little bit of research, I found that the fan blades in that one were like this, where they were the dovetail design, where they could, individually replace or replace individual fan blades. So again, I don't know if that's part of the problem or not. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a technician, so I don't know. But that's just something I thought I'd put out there. And another little piece of information that I think we should mention is that 2 months ago, in February, Chris Cheatwood sent this to me. The AMFA, I think the union, the Aircraft Mechanics Fraternal Association, the union representing the maintenance technicians at Southwest, took a vote, and a vote of no confidence for the Southwest Airlines Vice President of Maintenance Operations. And they asked the Southwest CEO, Gary Kelly, and the COO, Mike Vandeven, to relieve this person, Landon Nitschke, of his duties and responsibilities. And I'll put a link to this article in the show notes. But basically, they say, we do not undertake a vote of no confidence lightly, as we have diligently attempted to get these issues resolved. And apparently, there is a culture and workplace of hostility, retaliation, and unethical behavior, degrading the safety culture throughout the Southwest maintenance system. So I thought that was an interesting. Thank you, Chris, for sending that. Interesting little piece of information there. Not sure again if it has anything at all to do with this particular incident/accident, but I just thought I'd throw that out there in the mix. The crew did a great job, as they're trained to do. When you have a situation where you have a rapid decompression and you have an engine failure simultaneously, and they stayed cool, calm, and collected, which is what we're expected to do as airline pilots. And they got the thing safely on the ground. They did a great job. One of the things that I thought was interesting, did you see the videos of the people in the cabin when they were
with their oxygen masks?
Yeah. So
from memory, I'm pretty sure that the safety briefing goes something to the effect of, although we never anticipate a change in cabin pressure, should one occur, 4 oxygen masks will drop from the overhead compartment. Pull down on the mask to fully extend the tubing and activate the flow of oxygen. Place the mask over your nose and mouth and secure with the elastic.
What? Not just your mouth?
Nose and mouth.
Nose and mouth.
Yeah.
Both?
Both.
Huh.
Both.
Yeah.
So what happened in the photos of the passengers on the
almost everyone that I saw. Now maybe that's unfair, but all the ones that I see have the passengers with that yellow cup on their mouths, not their noses.
Not their nose. And I was, they're designed to be roughly circular, but I guess it's a silicone type material that can be easily deformed, so that you can put it over different, shapes. If people come in different shapes and sizes, and you want to be able to match all of those, and you want it to be something that can be used in any direction, because if it's a stressful situation, you don't want to have to be fumbling around with something to make sure it fits the right direction. But yeah, it's supposed to go over your nose and mouth.
So I was really curious. I'm thinking, well, maybe their safety card, their safety guide has a picture of just the mask over the mouth. But no. It shows the mask over the nose and mouth. Now, people, pay attention to the safety briefings, as Dr. Steph does, and I'm sure all the fine people that listen to the show listen to look at the pictures.
And that is verbatim from Southwest flight attendants. I've flown Southwest many times.
Many times, yes.
Yes, that's what they say.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then that was one of the things that kind of caught my attention. And then this might be appropriate time to play.
But I like that some of them actually took to social media to document that occurrence while the
we weren't the only ones. We weren't the only ones to notice that. We're going, what are they doing? Why are they just putting it over their mouths? But this might be a good time for this.
Ooh, Jeff's pet peeves.
All right. So you'll remember the miracle on the Hudson, which occurred, 9 years ago?
2009.
Yeah.
Was it 2009? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And so we all know about Captain Sully Sullenberger and the other guy.
Jeff Skiles.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. There was another guy there, right? Another pilot. So all this coverage on the media was focusing on the captain, who did a wonderful job. But I kept going, well, what about the first officer? What about the co-pilot? No mention of him. I'm thinking, is he getting Jeff Skiles'd?
The only place I saw his name mentioned was from their official statement that they released through Southwest. So
Yes, that's
First
the first
officer.
time I heard it as well, and I did a little research in on Facebook. Members of his own family went out there to say, "Oh, hey, by the way, that's my brother, Lance Ellisor, tweeted a tribute to his pilot brother. I'd just like to point out that the hero pilot Tammy Jo Schultz was assisted by her first officer and my brother Darren Ellisor. I'm glad he's safe and that almost all the lives were saved. I'm sad for the woman who didn't make it." So we have a picture of Darren in the cockpit door during some of the aftermath of this whole thing. But I'm thinking, I felt so sorry for him. I'm going, we talk about it all the time on the show. CRM, it's a crew effort. It's not just the captain and everybody else. It's the captain's part of the team. Should be the leader of the team, and in this case, clearly, Tammy Jo was the leader of this thing, and she said, we heard her on the radio transmissions, very calm, cool, and collected. And again, it was, and I have a feeling, I don't know this to be a fact, but I have a feeling that she was seeing all this coverage and thinking to herself that some of this is a little bit misplaced, and they're putting maybe too much emphasis on me. And then she and Darren put out a statement, as Steph just mentioned, quote, "As captain and first officer of the crew of 5 who worked to serve our customers aboard Flight 1380 yesterday, we all feel we were simply doing our jobs. Our hearts are heavy. On behalf of the entire crew, we appreciate the outpouring of support from the public and our co-workers as we all reflect on one family's profound loss." And over and over again, even Sully did the same thing. He said, look, don't make me a hero in this. We were doing our job. You hear that over and over and over again of all these situations. But in this case, it might be a little bit different, I think, because the prominent person in this whole thing, on the crew at least, the captain, was a female. And I'm glad that we're seeing that females are perfectly capable of doing the job of a pilot and a captain as anybody else. And we've mentioned that so many times on the show, and everybody knows how we feel about it. That sometimes, I don't know, again, I kind of feel like maybe this is almost overdoing it and maybe counterproductive. Because don't we want to be, whether you're green, purple, black, white, yellow, or male or female, whatever the junk is in your trunk, it doesn't matter. We are all human beings. We're all capable of doing these kind of jobs. And shouldn't it be that, we make a note of the fact that this was a female that was a captain of this, but I think it almost takes away from it. Again, I'm not a female, so it's hard for me to say much more about that. But Steph, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I can, certainly I stay connected with some of the community of female pilots on social media and other things. And I think there's actually a lot of mixed feelings about it.
Mhm.
In one sense, there's been a couple articles in the media saying, why are we surprised that it was a
Right, we
female
shouldn't.
captain? We shouldn't be anymore. And those are the articles that seem to be getting passed around the most in that community, saying, yeah, it's about time people realize it's, yeah, we're just pilots too.
Mhm.
We don't need extra special attention when it's a female pilot that happens to do something that they're trained to do and executes successfully, because that's their job. So,
Right. I was
but-
watching. Oh, go ahead.
but on the other hand, it's funny to see some of the other stories about, people who are pilots, female pilots who are professional pilots out there, and how often they're mistaken for flight attendants, just other cabin crew, perhaps hear comments from passengers who are part of the flying public who are not well informed, or hold certain prejudices, and those things still do exist. So on the other hand, it's kind of nice to see that she is getting the recognition for a job well done. But yeah, I don't think any of us think that it needs to be specifically stated separately. Ooh, it's a female pilot that.
Well, again, and
You can just say pilot. It's okay.
yeah, I don't know. It just to me, it just seems almost overdoing it and or counterproductive. For instance, here's a little clip from Fox News at Night with Shannon Bream with Representative Martha McSally.
We've gotten now a bit of a statement from Southwest because this is story, obviously, the good and the bad of it has captured so many headlines, saying this: as captain and first officer of the crew of 5 who worked to serve our customers aboard Flight 1380 yesterday, we all feel we were simply doing our jobs. Our hearts are heavy. On behalf of the entire crew, we appreciate the outpouring of support from the public and our coworkers as we all reflect on one family's profound loss. I know she's a person of deep faith too, and has talked about how that's helped her in flying and all that she's gone through.
She is. I was reading about that today, and I myself have done a lot of praying in cockpits. I mean, when things go wrong, when you're in combat, when you're dealing with these emergencies, there's no doubt that she was literally praying without ceasing as she was doing her job yesterday to save all those lives. And I know it's very humble for her to say that. And I know they have to go through the interviews and the investigations, but we want to honor her. So I'm introducing a resolution in Congress to honor her and the crew for what they did yesterday, because we need to give honor where honor is due.
Yeah, and she, like you said, very humble, and has said she was just doing her job. But can you give us a sense of what it's like in that moment to figure out how to get a plane like this to the ground?
Again, you go through lots of training so that in the moment that something happens, like this was just catastrophic failure, our understanding is the airplane shifted 40 degrees to the left and started to descend because it was a pretty catastrophic exchange. Obviously, the shrapnel kind of came through into the fuselage, into the window, and then what was going on with the decompression that's happening. You heard the radios as she started to descend. She had to quickly descend. We go through this whole process: maintain aircraft control, analyze the situation, take appropriate action. And then as we're prioritizing, it's aviate, navigate, communicate. Mm-hmm. And you saw the end of that is communicate, coolly and calmly what you need, what you're doing, where you're going, so that you can get everybody safely on the ground.
Yeah, and you say the 3 words there. My brother is a retired naval aviator too, and he always, I think you're the calmest people on the planet because of all that you've been through. Thank you for joining us tonight, for your service as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we're so proud. We're so proud of Captain Schultz.
And Representative Martha McSally there, the reason why she knows so much about this is that she was also a fighter pilot, I believe, in the Air Force. Of course, it goes to, or it needs to be said, that Tammy Jo Schultz was one of the first of the initial cadre of tactical fighter pilots in the U.S. Navy, and she went through many obstacles to get there. In fact, I think she gave up on the Air Force and went through the Navy and was able to burst through some of those glass ceilings in the Navy. And there's nothing to be taken away from that. But I think maybe the best way to describe the way I feel about this is by a fellow or another woman, Beverly Weintraub, who has won a Pulitzer Prize as a member of the New York Daily News editorial board. She's a member of the 99s International Organization of Women Pilots and the board of directors of the Air Race Classic. And she writes an editorial, I guess, in the Wall Street Journal, which we'll put in the show notes as well. But her point is, Sully was just a hero. Why label the Southwest captain a female pilot? So she goes on to talk about some of the things that, Steph, you just mentioned. Consider these scenarios, the first of which happened to me, and this is Beverly talking, the second to a friend, and the third and fourth to women who have posted about the incidents on Facebook. The first thing, the pilot who suggests that the woman with her plane parked nearby should take a pinch hitter course so she can learn to land it. The second one, the woman who taxis her plane up to the fuel pump and is greeted by a line guy blankly looking around and asking, "Where's the pilot?" The third one, the commercial pilot who goes to an aviation conference and is ignored by the airplane salesman passing out brochures to all the other male pilots in the crowd, though she may well be the most experienced flyer of the lot. And finally, the air transport pilot who is repeatedly mistaken for a flight attendant, or if she is recognized for what she is, has to listen to passengers grumble within earshot and sometimes to her face that they don't like flying with a woman in the cockpit. Now, we know all this is true, and I think that it's despicable. And I think you all know that. But again, I don't know, just this whole coverage, I'm thinking there are so many instances, including the Southwest incident that happened in August of 2016, that was hardly even a mention on the news. There weren't resolutions in Congress, that kind of thing for the thing. They were doing their jobs of flying an airplane single engine. That's why we go to the simulators every year or more often to learn how to fly in these situations. And I really do laud this crew for their performance because it was a compound emergency. Not only did the engine fail, they thought it was on fire initially, and they had the rapid decompression to go with it. Very, very stressful situation, and they did an awesome job. So please don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say here. It's just that's just one of the things that I got from this whole thing, and I have a feeling that many women pilots out there would agree.
I think it's something that we're going to see for many years to come anytime we have some of these similar situations. And I think it's just part of the way that the culture, at least our culture, has been for so long. And, like I said before, it's kind of two minds about all of it. But at the end of the day, I think most of us, we just want to be pilots or doctors or runners or whatever. You don't have to specifically put that female label in front of it. So,
right. Well, Nick, you've been awfully quiet.
Well, to be fair, you guys have covered just about everything I would have talked about, and so anything I would say would merely be a repetition. The only thing I would perhaps add is it was incredibly unfortunate that one loose blade, assuming that's what struck the window, sadly found its way to what appears to have been a slight weak point in the aircraft, and as a result broke the window and caused the death of that passenger, who was, I might point out, strapped in.
Yes.
It wasn't like she was sitting there not strapped in. She was just in a dreadful position at the wrong time. I commend both pilots for their exceptional handling of the situation. There is a great deal of publicity concerning this, not only because it's a death on board, but because of the very good reasons you have all mentioned about the crew. But there are single engine landings performed, I would say, almost every day at somewhere around the world. This is one that has generated a huge amount of publicity and suggestions of awards, etc., which I don't see is a bad idea. But there are people out there who will have handled other emergencies today, tomorrow, the next day, who will do an equally good job. And I also commend them for their professionalism, not taking anything away from this crew. They did a fine job. But let's not remember that hopefully we're all capable of handling our aircraft in a similar way if we get a similar problem.
Yeah, come on, listen, people in society, get your head straight here. Let's not think in genders and in races and in religious whatever. We're all human beings, and some of us have the abilities to do certain things and some of us don't. I can't run a marathon like Dr. Steph can. I mean, she just has those talents and abilities that I don't. And it's not because she's a female and I'm a male. There are plenty of males out there that run marathons. So,
and better than me, I might add. Much better than me.
It's like, why do we get so hung up on this? I guess that's my thing. It just kind of gets me. It's like, I thought the whole point of this is to ignore all of this and to she's a pilot. I'm a pilot. Dr. Steph's a pilot. Nick's a pilot. We're pilots. But again, I do see the other, and I haven't been in your shoes, Dr. Steph, and all of you other aviators out there who are women. I understand that it's not been an easy thing to do. And I've cringed many, many times from some of the comments that I've heard over the decades of flying. And so I get where you're coming from. I can't, say that I completely understand and have the same feeling because I'm not in your shoes. I can't, but I have a feeling,
And I should add, a lot of those, like we talked a little bit about barriers or misconceptions or, negative snide comments or remarks that unfortunately people experience and hear. I have been party to very few of those along the way. I was even struggling to think if I could remember an instance where I've encountered a barrier like that. And I don't think I have necessarily. So I've been very fortunate, perhaps, or perhaps it's just that times have changed and we've moved on, and my road has been easier because of people who came before me. And if I do hear or encounter some of these things, they tend to just kind of go in one ear and out the other, and I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it because it's not worth getting hung up on for the most part. I was recalling a instance where I think I was working on my instrument ticket. We had flown actually into Raleigh, Durham, and we were at the FBO, me and my flight instructor at the time, and we were going out on the ramp to go pre-flight and head back to our home base. And as we walked out, it was night. One of the ramp workers came out and said, "You guys can't be out here. What are you doing?" We're like, "Well, that's our plane right there, and we're going to take it back to where we came from, if that's okay with you." He goes, "Oh, I had no idea." It's like, okay, thanks. So
Yeah, and I
we're
can't.
both female pilots, so whether that had anything to do with it or not, I don't know. It's probably just we look suspicious, obviously.
Nah,
So
I think it's a female thing probably. And we all remember the little riddle about the the surgeon that says I can't operate on him.
yeah.
He's my son,
my
and we all
son.
go, huh? Well, how can that be? Because we have those built-in stereotypes.
And it's funny, I didn't get the riddle at first. It made no sense to me because I was like, well, obviously it's just his mom.
Yeah, see, you have your mind is set properly, and I think a lot of it, Steph, is because you are younger. I remember, I've been with the airlines for almost 30 years now, and before that in the Air Force, and I can tell you, early on, several decades ago, it was not uncommon at all to hear comments like, you hear a female voice on the radio and another empty kitchen. I mean, I heard that all the time, and I just never said anything. It's like, come on, get with the 80s,
Right.
get with the 90s, whatever. Get with the whatever we're in now, the 2010s or the 20 teens. I don't know what our time is called now, but I think that it just takes time to kind of to get rid of those stereotypes and to accept.
It takes a long time, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
So.
we are maybe not fast enough, but again, it's been a very, very long time since I've heard any derogatory comment about females and or different races. So that's a good thing. I'm glad for it. So let's see. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about the particular engine issue in this thing, and whether they're going to discover more problems with this particular type of engine.
Yeah, I might point out I've got many thousands of hours flying with aircraft with these engines, all of which, generally speaking, well, I only had 3 engine problems on the CFM 56, but none of my blades fell off, so that's good.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, big news. I'm sure it's not the last we'll hear of this, and I think it was a good discussion. And hopefully, again, nobody takes what I'm saying the wrong way. It's just that I just really have that same vision that Martin Luther King did. Let's not judge each other by the color of our skin, but on the the content of our character and our abilities to do jobs, certain jobs. Clearly, there are many things that I cannot do. I'm just not built for it, or have the right mind for it, or have the talent for it. Anyway, this happened right after a day after the emergency landing by the Southwest 1380 flight. This was in Atlanta, and last time I checked, it wasn't even in the Aviation Herald. This was from let's see, the news source here, foxnews.com, and Chris Cheatwood sent this in. A Delta jet made an emergency landing Wednesday after smoke was seen pouring from one of the plane's engines. The plane, which was departing for London, immediately returned, and aircraft rescue and firefighting officials hosed down the aircraft's smoking engine. The plane was towed back to the concourse with the passengers aboard. No injuries have been reported. And I'm thinking, why was this reported? And then the next line here, a reporter with Fox 5 Atlanta was aboard the plane. The incident occurred nearly half an hour into the flight. I think, no wonder we're hearing about it. I'm wondering how many things happen out there that we don't really ever hear about because there's not somebody from the media on board. But we see a lot of these things. If you follow Simon's website, Aviation Herald, avherald.com, and I'm always amazed at the number of things that he has on that site. But I bet that's just a fraction of what actually is happening out there in the world. But I have a little audio from this. Somebody recorded this inside the cabin, and this is real. It's not a joke.
Oh, wow. Well, this right where we're sitting.
Purser, call the cockpit, please.
I think the captain must be former Northwest because he said purser. I don't believe a lot of the Delta pilots ever refer to flight attendants as purser.
Issue with the engine on the right-hand side. Apparently there's some smoke coming from it. Once again, we're in good hands with their efficient making sure that the small little fire's out. Please stand by with the seatbelts fastened. We anticipate hopefully taxiing clear in just a few minutes, but we need to have the fire trucks do their job. Thank you.
We would have more information about the flight number, the type of airplane, the type of engines, etc. If this was covered on the Aviation Herald, but that's all the information we have. It's just a flight bound for London that occurred a day after the, I guess so that was yesterday, Wednesday, the 18th of April. But it's kind of nice to hear the captain or the captain's representative coming on the PA and telling people, it's okay. They're going to put the fire out. This is smoking a little bit, but we're okay. And turns out that was true. So
yeah, I saw some discussion about why they didn't evacuate this aircraft with, smoke coming from an engine. But valid points were brought up that if, fire and rescue is on the scene and they have a good sense of what's going on and there's good communication between the two crews, the majority of injuries in those cases come from the evacuation itself. So if everything is clearly under control, no need to panic there.
Exactly. And there obviously wasn't any smoke pouring into the the cabin, and people weren't choking or whatever. So I think that was the right decision that the captain, the crew made in that particular situation. So thank you, Chris, for pointing that out to us. And then finally, kind of mentioned it at the very beginning. Hopefully we won't spend too much time on it. The U.S. Air Force Lockheed Martin F-22A Raptor skidded on its belly across the runway of NAS Naval Air Station Fallon near Reno, Nevada, on the 13th of April after a takeoff mishap. The pilot was able to exit the aircraft without major injuries, and the cause of the crash is unknown, although the incident is under investigation, said Anchorage, Alaska-based Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson Base. The aircraft is assigned to the base's third wing. The F-22A was in Nevada for mock dogfighting against fighter aircraft and the Navy Strike Fighter Tactics Instructor Program, also called Top Gun. Now I'm thinking to myself, maybe it wasn't an Air Force. Does the Navy have F-22s? Does anybody know? I thought it was just Air Force that had them.
Sorry, I'm not the right person to ask about military.
But I know that Elmendorf is an Air Force base, but it talks about Joint Base, so perhaps there's a Navy unit assigned there. Well, it doesn't
It
really.
mentions that they were there for dogfighting against fighter aircraft of the Navy Strike Fighter Tactics Program.
That's why
they were probably the dissimilar type
Yeah.
that they were going to train against that day.
Thank you. Micah says that the Navy does not fly the F-22. So, it was an Air Force F-22. Images on social media show the aircraft resting on the tarmac with its landing gear retracted. Joint Base Elmendorf said that the aircraft later was hoisted into a position where the landing gear could be extended and locked. It was then towed to a position where damage and repairs can be evaluated. Posts to a Facebook page, Air Force Forum, which is not officially associated with the U.S. Air Force, said that the aircraft suffered from a left engine flameout while the plane was taking off and raising its landing gear, though those claims have not been independently verified. And the quote from them is, "The cause of this incident is still under investigation. It's not known at this time whether a landing gear, engine malfunction, or any other mechanical issue were factors in the incident." And then an update from some sources on another website said that info on the Raptor mishap at Fallon, the slide happened on takeoff. It appears to have been a left engine flameout when the pilot throttled up to take off. By the time he realized the engine was dead, he had already been airborne for a few seconds and raised the gear. The jet bounced for around 1,500 feet and then slid for about 5,000 feet. They got it off the ground and on its landing gear last night, so the runway's clear. Anyway, if you look at the pictures on social media, especially the shot from behind the jet looking forward, you'll notice that the left nozzle is in the downward pointing position, and the left, I don't know if they call it an elevon, is in a position that would indicate to me it would make sense if the left engine had failed and the computers of the jet were attempting to keep the airplane from turning to the left. So that kind of comports with all the information that we have with the left engine failing and not having enough energy, I guess, to fly away from the ground. And maybe
Yeah, I would say that would be unlikely. I think the aircraft should perform adequately on one engine. It was going off for a dogfighting mission. It would be reasonably lightweight. There was no stores underneath. So it looks like it's clean, which means it should have plenty of performance. I suspect the next time this guy gets airborne, he won't be quite so quick to whip the gear up, because it might have been just that unexpected loss of thrust that dropped him a few feet onto the runway. And perhaps if he had a few more feet underneath him when he pulled the gear up, he would have got away with it without any problems.
Could this be a case of one of those embarrassing premature gear retractions?
That's what she said.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that. I mean, from my days, we were always pretty snappy getting the gear up, but it was a kind of a thing. Because like we did everything pretty snappy, whereas actually waiting just a couple of seconds before you heave the gear up gives you enough room that if you do lose an engine and drift down a little without realizing, then you've still got room to maneuver, or you've got a bit of air underneath you. But I'm double guessing what the situation here was. But certainly I would fully expect the aircraft to be flown perfectly adequately at that point on one engine.
Yeah, me too. I think that maybe he just wasn't aware of the loss of thrust and assumed that it would have the same performance that he was used to. I'm saying he, it may have been she. I
would hope the airplane would tell him with an androgynous voice as opposed to Bitching Betty that we had on the F-18.
No, see, I'm kind of a fan of Bitching Betty.
A lot of people are. This is not the first time that they had this issue with a F-22A Raptor in December of last year. Well, in December, it returned to service, I guess sometime. It was in 2012. It took 5 years to fix the thing. An aircraft skidded across the runway of Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida when a trainee attempted a touch-and-go landing but mistakenly retracted the landing gear before pushing the throttle to military power. Oops. In addition to repairing scratches to the skins of the wing and the stabilator, the U.S. Air Force replaced the skins and doors of the central and aft fuselage of that aircraft at a cost of only $35 million.
What a bargain.
Yes.
I'm sure that student was worth it.
And now I know where all my tax money goes.
Right?
Or some of it anyway.
As it was just tax day.
I know.
Really 2 days ago, but thanks to the IRS and their wonderful use of technology yesterday.
Dr. Steph at airlinepilotguide.com.
That's right.
Okay. You guys ready to move on to the best part of the show?
Absolutely.
Sure. Let's do it.
Captain, incoming message.
Y'all need to take a break?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for reading my mind.
She just had that look.
Did
Jeff.
I
I had the feeling actually too.
The whites of her eyes were turning a little yellow.
So let's just take a break and chat room. You've been great today, and I know you will continue. You're always great, but it's a great conversation you guys are having there.
Take care of yourselves for a moment.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Entertain yourselves while Joey Alexander plays for us.
Back. Oh my God! Someone had a madman loose on the piano.
And you remember this blue. Can you face some unpleasant facts?
No.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Excuse me, sir. There's been a little problem in the cockpit.
The cockpit? What is it?
It's the little room in the front of the plane where the pilots sit. That's not important right now.
I know, but this guy doing the flying has no airline experience at all. He's a menace to himself and everything else in the air. Yes, birds too.
Tanya, are you still in the chat room? Wanted to thank Tanya. She gave me a gift of gin. Plymouth. Have you ever had that stuff?
No.
I've never heard of it. From Plymouth, England, I think. Or somewhere in England. Really good gin. Thank you so much. And TSA did not stop me. I wasn't drinking it at the time. As far as they know.
Kevin McCord. This is the Par 4 Session IPA from Noda, which is quite tasty.
It is.
Local Charlotte brew.
And when Steph had finished her race, where was I? I was somewhere. Greensboro. At something McCool's pub or something like that. And I asked them what they had on tap, what kind of IPAs they had. And yes, when he said Jade by Foothills Brewing, right? Foothills?
Yep.
I said, that's it. I'll take one of those, please. It was delicious.
An excellent IPA.
I toasted Dr. Steph's awesome accomplishment with the Jade.
And I think at the time I was not having a beer. I was just in all of my warm clothes under the covers with the heat turned up all the way in the hotel room.
Probably a nice cold beer was the last thing.
Trying to stave off hypothermia.
Yeah. There are times, believe it or not, that a beer just doesn't really sound.
No, it really didn't sound. I had one later that evening after I got my core body temperature back up to somewhere near normal.
Oh, it looks like, well, Tanya hasn't responded. So, Liz, yes, we know you're not a fan of gin. But, and I think Nick is not a fan either. I think Steph and I are the only ones that like it on the crew.
No, I'll give it to you guys, but I won't drink it.
Well, I think that's a good,
It's good for us.
Yeah, it's good.
It is. You're quite right.
And Tanya,
No
by the way,
competition.
Nick, when she handed me the bottle, all wrapped up in bubble wrap, made mention of the fact of the sad alcohol abuse that you put a bottle of gin through.
Oh, it was very sad.
Yeah, he knocked a perfectly good bottle of Sapphire, Bombay Sapphire gin, off the counter and onto the floor of the Hyatt Regency Peachtree Plaza Hotel in
I
Atlanta.
recall that.
There were a lot of tears.
And I should also note that he replaced that bottle on his next visit. So thank you, sir. Very kind of you.
About twice the cost.
Oh no.
Jeez.
I didn't get my discount, and anyway, Doesn't matter.
He's
It
making
was
me feel
truly
bad
the
now.
thought that counts.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
idea.
I guess you'll have to let me know what kind of bottle of something that you might like from me when I head over there next, or this summer, soon.
Yeah, shouldn't be too long. Yeah,
That's what she said.
Start your start your wish list.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of that, if you're wondering about the APG crew and what's going on with Barber and Riot, I plan on being at both, and we, in consultation and discussion with the PTUK folks, have decided that we're not going to do like a big giant formal gathering slash recording as we did in 2016, but instead we're going to put all our focus on just hanging out with all you great APG people and PTUK people while we're there in England and enjoying
At the show. Yes.
at the shows, and in between, I'm sure we'll probably have the opportunity to do a meetup or two informally, various places, and I'll bring my recording equipment. I'm sure we'll be able to knock out a recording of APG that week because the show must go on. And but anyway, so that's our thinking this year. We're just going to make ourselves available to hang out with all you fine folks.
I like it. Good plan.
Yeah. And that way we don't have to formally make plans and reserve venues and equipment and all that kind of stuff. And make poor Carlos and Matt and Nev work their arses off. Okay. Are we ready to continue?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's start with Jonathan. Hey, Captain, Jeff, crew, with all this talk about Dana's impending and long-awaited conversion to captain, and Captain Jeff's comment in episode 313 or 314 that he was just 2,000 odd days away from retirement, I wondered what Captain Jeff's plan was for the rest of his career. I know in the past he's mentioned a possible switch to the 7576. Is that still the case? Is it coming anytime soon? Those of us who fly Acme but rarely on the Mad Dog want to know if we might have a chance to have Captain Jeff's mustache navigating us across the country anytime soon. I don't think my mustache will be doing the navigating, but
it's a very talented mustache.
It is
can we
very
say.
talented. Okay, I'll skip that. Keep up the great work on the show, Jonathan in Minneapolis. And well, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, Jonathan. I'm still kind of playing it by ear. The Mad Dogs are being retired, and the clip is starting to pick up. The pace is picking up, and it really depends on how they start utilizing the airplane, what the trips look like specifically. If they start looking like multiple day trips with multiple legs on each day, then that might be the time for Captain Jeff's mustache to say, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, and move to the 7576. I do, as many of you know, have some things going on in my personal life, some issues, legal issues, trust issues. Not trust as in people don't trust me, but like a trust, like a will, like a trust. I'm a trustee of a trust, and it's involved in some legal issues, and I really want all that to be resolved before I go back to another school to learn a new airplane, which is kind of stressful for me anyway. And so, we'll have to wait and see. If I can stay on this airplane and I still have a pretty nice lifestyle, I may just do that. And if not, then I'll most likely move to the 7576. We call it the 76ER category, which basically does domestic flying here in the U.S. It does international flying, both to Europe and the Southern Hemisphere and the Far East, or Asia, I guess I should say. So a lot of different opportunities there. So we'll just have to wait and see. So that's my answer. Let's see. Number 3, Megan and some others also submitted some feedback regarding this article. I guess they had some kind of a show, Aircraft Interiors International show recently, and Airbus has recruited Zodiac Aerospace to jointly develop passenger facilities for the cargo decks of A330s and A350s. Under an agreement signed at the aircraft, the Aircraft Interiors Expo in Hamburg, partners will, from 2020, offer potential customers a range of different modules with the same dimensions as regular cargo containers as, quote, certified solutions, Airbus says. Facilities will include passenger sleeping berths, meeting rooms, office desks, or open space that could be used, for example, as a lounge or a children's play area. Up to 4 modules, each 4 meters wide, 2.4 meters long, and 1.5 meters high. Or for those of you who don't understand any of that, that's 13 by 8 by 5 feet, can be loaded via the aircraft's cargo door and loading system. Airbus says the modules will not affect the cargo floor and loading system and will be easily interchangeable with regular freight containers during a typical turnaround. However, aircraft will require modifications to allow access from the main deck and connections for electricity and passenger amenities. Airbus head of cabin and cargo Jeff Pinner says the airframer will build demonstrator modules that will be flight tested on an A330. He says the product will initially be offered to A330 operators as both a line and retrofit solution, as more than 150 aircraft are in service that are already configured to be equipped with crew rest compartments on the lower deck. Now, this is not the first time, by the way. Well, here, let me read what Megan said when she sent this in. Hi, I'm Megan, a very new listener without an aviation background, but have really been enjoying your podcast. I've always been fascinated by airport logistics, air traffic control topics. Just read an article today that Airbus is going to, and well, we just read it for you. It says, she says, it sounds like passengers who want one of the sleep pods would additionally pay for a seat in the main cabin. I'm curious what you guys think about this, particularly related to the safety of the passengers moving between the main cabin and the cargo hold throughout the flight. Are cargo holds normally pressurized? If something were to go amiss with the plane, like an emergency, would those passengers in the cargo hold be in more danger than those in the main cabin? The article says the pods won't affect the loading of the plane, but I was curious about your thoughts in it. Thanks. And again, that's Megan. Welcome, Megan. Glad to see that you're here with us, and welcome aboard the APG community. And Nick, so you fly the 330, 340. Perhaps one of these days they may load up one of these Zodiac Aerospace containers. Would that be that unusual?
Well, not really, I don't think. There have been crew compartments, as the article suggests, in the cargo area, and we're calling it a cargo area, but it's just another deck of the aircraft. If you didn't put baggage in there, you could actually turn almost any airliner into a 2-deck aircraft. You could put seating down there. There's really not much to stop you. Just there's nowhere to put the bags and any cargo you want to carry. And usually the ceiling is a little low, but if you move the floor up, you could turn almost any wide body into a 2-deck aircraft, which is effectively what they're doing here. Moving up and down between the 2 decks, well, it would be just the same as being on an A380 and going up and down the stairs, or on a 747 and climbing up the stairs between the 2 decks that exist on those aircraft. So there's no real difference. Certainly from a safety point of view, there's no problem at all. What about people down there and their safety? Well, you would actually have to probably have cabin crew specifically allocated to those areas to ensure that when the seatbelt signs went on, that whatever restraint facilities were down there, people took to them, and that the cabin was properly secured with the passengers in a safe position while they were down there. I doubt that they would need to have to come back up to the upper cabin, because that might take too long. They would probably have some kind of seating system down there, but that means doubling up on seats. So from an economic point of view, I think this is an expensive option. You'd need to have seat upstairs for probably for takeoff and landing. And if you wanted to go down there to rest or to have a conference, you would have to pay for an extra amount for that facility, I suspect. So I personally don't see this as a very practical concept, certainly for the average airplane or the average airline. But of course, there may be some businessmen who, or some big businesses who think it's a brilliant idea. They can move a lot of executives around the world. They can have meetings. They can sleep on board while they're moving between their company headquarters, various countries. It might be an option for a few individual aircraft. But I'm doing this off the top of my head. I've no real idea of what the projected use of these aircraft are, but I certainly don't think you're going to find them on your average bucket and spade charter down to the beaches of Spain anytime soon.
Although purely from a passenger point of view, it looks pretty comfy. I could go have a very nice nap down there, and
I think it'd be great down there. I think there'll be some nice sleeping bunks. I think you've probably got facilities down there that lots of room. You can move around. You could you'd probably be able to stay in those in turbulence. I suspect as long as there are straps. Certainly, in our bunks that we rest in on the aircraft, we have straps and we secure ourselves lying down. And so long as you were clothed while you were sleeping, and so the cabin crew didn't open a pod and find a naked person there just because they wanted to check that they were properly strapped in, that's a disadvantage of this. You're going to have to realize that you're not really private in there. At any time, the cabin crew may slide open whatever curtains there are and have a look at you.
So just to make sure that everybody understands, and I'm assuming that I'm understanding this properly, is the fact that airplanes are certified for egress and all that kind of stuff for the seating in the main cabin levels and all the emergency exits and all that kind of stuff. So I think that these pods would be used after the airplane was safely airborne and would be evacuated before the airplane came in for a landing.
I would assume that would have to be the
way I
case.
read it. You'd need to have a seat upstairs in the main cabin, and then you'd pay to have an additional area downstairs, which would be presumably quite expensive because now you're paying for two seats and you're only really ever using one of them.
Right.
And I don't see any seats down there that look suitable for takeoff landing anyway. So
right. But I think maybe people reading this article might think, oh, I can just, that you can just start off by, being in one of these compartments. But I don't believe that's ever going to happen unless the aircraft are recertified with suitable emergency exits and prove that they can evacuate everybody within 90 seconds and all that kind of stuff. And obviously that would be cost prohibitive. So
yeah, you'd have to start fitting doors into the cargo.
Yeah.
Doors or whatever, or using the cargo doors themselves as emergency exits isn't very practical.
And Megan was wondering, is it pressurized? And yes, believe it or not, the cargo compartments are pressurized.
But not all of them are necessarily heated. So you'd have to make sure that, you had proper cargo bay heating. A lot of our cargo bays just take ambient air from the cabin above, and that isn't individually controlled, so it wouldn't be very comfortable for someone down there. And only, for example, on most of my aircraft, only the bulk cargo hold, which is a smaller hold right at the tail of the airplane, is specifically heated and has heating controls.
Back in the day when I flew the L-1011, on certain models of the L-1011, we had a lower galley in the area below the main passenger deck where there were a bunch of ovens, and we had a couple lifts that the carts would be put upon and lifted up to the main level, and then of course the empty carts would come back down, and it was also a way for the cabin crew to go down and come back up from the lower cargo hold. And I remember that in that particular airplane, on those models that had the lower galley, one of the items on the before, I think it was a before landing checklist, or perhaps it was the approach checklist, was the lower galley secured, which meant that no cabin crew could be in the lower galley for takeoff or landing. So,
interesting, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Megan, and everybody else who sent in feedback regarding this article about Zodiac Aerospace.
And great to have you on board, Megan.
Yes.
Welcome.
Let's see. TP from New Jersey has a piece of audio feedback that they sent us, so let's listen.
Hello, APG crew. My name is TP from New Jersey. I am a lifelong av geek and have recently been plagued with the syndrome. I just started listening a few weeks ago and started with the first episode of 2018, episode 305. I've since made it into March and just finished episode 313. I'd like to offer two pieces of feedback. One is more of a comment, the other is a question. Here we go with the first one. Over the past few episodes, there have been several mentions of the Aleutian IL-62. This plane is a really special one for me and is almost certainly the reason why I'm an av geek today, and I guess ultimately responsible for infecting me with the syndrome. It was my freshman year of high school during the spring of 1992, and I was about to board my first flight. This was a flight from JFK to Kiev Boryspil Airport in Ukraine on an Air Ukraine IL-62. I'll never forget the moment as we taxied onto the runway at JFK. The pilot lined the plane up, and then, all of a sudden, all four engines started screaming. However, we weren't moving. For what seemed like a full minute, we were at full power, and then, all of a sudden, we were thrown back into our seats. It wasn't until we rolled across every inch of available runway that I felt the plane lift off, and I, for the first time in my life, was airborne. Who would have thought that a kid that grew up in the suburbs of New Jersey would have his first flight on an IL-62? I happened to dig up a few pictures of the plane, and will send them in a separate feedback. Now for my question. A few years ago, I was sitting on my favorite beach in the whole world, Maho Beach in St. Maarten. This is the beach directly across from the arrival end of runway 10 at SXM, Princess Juliana Airport. You can literally almost reach out and touch the landing airplanes and be blown over by the jet blast from the departing ones. I'm not sure you can legally consider yourself an av geek unless you've made a pilgrimage there. I was there on a particularly busy day. I saw everything. A320s, 737s, 757s, 767, a 747, an A330, an A340. Everyone, with one exception, including all the heavies, were departing on runway 10. For those who might not be familiar with that departure, you need to make an immediate right turn to avoid a big hill at the departure end of the runway. The exception that day was American Airlines, post-US Air merger. Regardless of what they were flying, 737, A320, or even an A330, they all took off from runway 28, even if it disrupted flow at that airport. You heard them on the radio telling the tower that they required runway 28. My question is, why did they need that runway, even when everyone else, including a 747 and an A340, were able to take off on runway 10? Thanks.
Well, I wish we had Colonel Jeff with us. He would be able to perhaps answer that question. I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is to that. Do you, Captain Nick?
Well, I'm guessing it's perhaps a company restriction. They may decide that for them, the safest departing runway was the one not pointing towards the hill, in which case they would have written to their pilots saying, unless in exceptional circumstances, you are to request this particular runway for departure. That's the only thing I can think of that would cause one airline to do something different to what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, and it obviously must be a company-wide or airline, uniform policy, because it was only the American flights that were doing that.
Yeah.
And
But
did you
other
say
than-
regardless of aircraft type, or it was just one aircraft type?
Oh, regardless of the
Regardless.
aircraft.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
But I'm not familiar with that aircraft or the departures, so I can't really comment
Yeah,
on that.
I don't have any experience there either. I would imagine that their engineering would have to go through and make sure that it was all safe and they met the proper performance requirements. Good question, though. And I know that Jeff is listening. So, Jeff, send us some great audio feedback as you want to do occasionally. Or, well, it's all good when you do send it in. So,
yes, it is. It's very
please let us know if we're close to the correct answer. Thank you for your feedback, TP from NJ. Glad you are part of our community, and we appreciate it. Thanks for your reflection of your story on the Aleutian 62. And
the old VC-10 ski. So, the Russians did a lot of spying on aviation companies around the time that Concorde was being built. Well, one of the aircraft that they managed to get the plans for was the VC-10. And lo and behold, an almost identical aircraft subsequently appeared in the Soviet Union, an almost identical copy of the VC-10. I wonder how they worked that out.
I don't know. And then, the Concorde ski is very similar.
It was.
And the C5 ski is also suspiciously similar.
Exactly right, yeah. Saves an awful lot of money if you can pinch someone else's blueprints.
Yeah.
Why do all the work for yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
I guess what could be said is the Russians have great spies.
Yes, they do.
Let's see. Dr. Steph, would you like to take 5?
I can do that. This is from Steve, officer who dragged passenger off United flight, now suing. So Steve Nicholson, he says, "Hey, APG crew, it appears the famous United Airlines doctor beating story from last year is back in the news. See attached link. It almost defies logic. Also, can you believe that was a year ago already? Time has flown past. I must be getting old. Cavu and tailwinds to all, Louisiana Steve." So yeah, this is going back to the Dr. Dow incident on the United flight almost a year ago, exactly. So in a lawsuit filed on Tuesday, the Officer Long, says he was not properly trained to handle the April 9th, 2017 situation on board a United flight. The incident occurred when the cabin crew on board a flight from Chicago to Louisville dispatched for airport aviation police when 2 passengers, Dr. Dow and his wife, refused to get off the plane after they were bumped off the overbooked flight. Long was one of several officers who responded to the call, which ended in him dragging Dow out of his seat. As a result of the incident, Dow ended up with a broken nose, 2 missing teeth, and a concussion. Long and another officer were fired. Now Long says he was unfairly fired. The lawsuit also claims that Chicago Aviation Commissioner Ginger Evans slandered Long when she posted on social media that Long and the other officers did not behave appropriately and that they were not armed for good reasons. In quotes. Slander. Let's see. This is in parentheses. The dragging incident occurred amid a push to arm the aviation police force. In parentheses. So these false statements implied that Long was not acting in his capacity as a police officer. The lawsuit complaint claims. The lawsuit charges negligence and defamation, and Long is seeking action because he feels he was doing his duty at the time Dr. Dow was escorted off the plane. That was his attorney talking. He was not in the wrong, but if he did do something wrong, it was because the city of Chicago failed to properly train him. A request for comment from the Chicago Department of Aviation was not immediately returned. Dr. Dow's attorney had no comment on the new lawsuit. And a United spokesperson told TPG, which is, I think, where this article came from, or thepointsky.com, that the company has not yet been served with the suit and therefore was unable to comment. So it says that Long had been unemployed since being fired following the incident last year. He had worked for the Chicago Department of Aviation since 2015. So
does he have a point, or is this just a legal maneuver to kind of?
Well, I think the point is that he's been unemployed because he was fired after the incident, and now he's trying to go back and say, well, but they didn't train me to handle a situation like this, and it's their fault that
it's not my fault. I wasn't trained to take a doctor off an airplane.
Right. So I don't know that I have much commentary or opinion on that because
you're not a lawyer.
Well, I think you should personally offer yourself up for training and kicking doctors off airplanes. So.
I mean, you could have just paged the guy, right? Like just page him, paging Dr. Dow.
I think what you should do is say, right, okay, I'll charge these police officers one at a time. I'll go up skydiving, and you can kick me out of the airplane.
Seems a little extreme. No, I think this. I'm being a little tongue in cheek because I have opinions, but I'm not going to actually say them at this point.
Doctors and lawyers, you know how that goes.
Do you?
No. I can only guess.
But anyway, there you have it. We're pulling this story back into the news for better or worse. Probably worse.
Worse, yeah.
Worse.
Sorry, I made you read it. Well, Captain Nick, would you
Yes,
like
sir.
to tackle number 6, sent in by many people, including Colonel Jeff and Brian?
Okay, this is from engadget.com. And Colonel Jeff says, looks like FedEx is already using these somewhat. P.S. Hope to get to Newark on the 17th. That's 2 days ago.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Apparently, he didn't make it.
Useless. So it's entitled Wearables. FedEx will use smart glasses to help pilots land in emergencies. So Saved, SAVED, lets crew see what's outside when smoke fills the cockpit. Smoke is understandably a serious danger for aircraft, and not just in life-threatening situations. The FAA notes that there's typically one smoke-related landing per day. But that's a lot. But how does the pilot land with a smoke-filled cockpit when they might not even see the instrument cluster, let alone the world outside? Well, FedEx and the Oosterhout Design Group have an idea. They're showing off SAVED, which stands for Smoke Assured Vision Enhanced Display. Yes, it's a forced acronym. A hybrid smart glass, or hybrid smart glasses, I should say, and an oxygen mask system that provides data from the aircraft's head-up display and external cameras to help with emergency landings. Well, that's assuming your airplane has a head-up display and external cameras. Pilots won't have to fly blind or risk passing out just to avoid a disaster. I presume they mean by passing out that they would take their mask off. I don't see how that would improve visibility, but we'll see. The system is small, light, easy to install, Oosterhout claims, and is easy to see as much from a quick glance. And it's easy to see as much, from a quick glance. Smart glasses are usually bulky by themselves, but they're relatively compact in an oxygen mask. Not surprisingly, FedEx is the first customer. I'm not quite sure why that's not surprisingly. Do they have
not
some smoky cockpits?
Well, they have had some.
They're in need of their services. Yes,
they've had some instances where they had smoke and they had some tragic crashes because of it.
Okay. Perhaps something for plain tales. It's using SAVE for both training and real-world flights. There's no mention of other customers just yet. However, it's easy to see other couriers and airlines adopting wearable tech like this in the future, where it could save lives. In the best cases, avoid crash landings.
Oh, I get it. It's easy to see.
Yeah,
clever.
Like that went past me.
I don't think they were trying to do that.
Pun not intended.
Pun not intended.
I mean, this is a movement of technology from, I suspect, the military monocles that pilots and projected displays onto helmet visors that military pilots now have, and moving into the civil world so that you would get an impression of what's happening or what is occurring in a smoke-filled cockpit being projected onto your glass oxygen mask visor to allow you to fly the airplane, which is a damn good idea. But I'm just thinking, actually, there's an application for this all the time, or at least certainly during takeoff and landing, not just in the smoke-filled cockpits, but perhaps in fog or at night. That would aid pilots, and I don't see why this technology should just be restricted to the few times when you're likely to encounter smoke in the cockpit. Now, apart from the sim, Jeff, have you ever had to deal with smoke in the cockpit?
No, thank goodness. I hope I never do.
No, likewise. It would be lovely to have this sort of technology, but I'm just thinking of the cost against the reward. There haven't been that many accidents that I can know of, that I can immediately recall, that where pilots have crashed because they had smoke-filled cockpits and it obscured their vision. I know plenty of cases where the smoke-filled cockpit has been down to a fire and that has caused the crash, but not just a loss of vision. So it seems to be quite an expensive technology that will sit in a little box beside you and possibly never ever be pulled out.
I have flown with people though that have had really really difficult circumstances with that kind of a thing, with the smoke in the cockpit.
Oh, right.
And they almost crashed, but they were able to get it on the ground. Of course, he didn't hear anything of it because it was a good outcome. But I would imagine that in that one instance or more, it would be. I mean, I think it would be worth the money spent. The managers at Acme may not feel the same, but
no, they may well say, well, you've got an auto land system. Just use that. Just do an auto.
Not sure.
land.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
So
fact, you can't see your
always
instruments.
works.
Yeah, it always works. Never.
Yeah.
It never has a problem. Never has a problem.
Yeah.
Never has a problem.
But I like it. It's nice use of technology, and like I say, I'd like to see that not just available for your oxygen mask. I'd like to see it usable in more circumstances.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me what synthetic vision is kind of using that technology, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. I hope that maybe if enough airlines end up employing this technology, perhaps the cost will go down and it'll be affordable for everybody.
Yeah.
That's wishful thinking, I'm sure. But well, thank you, Nick, for reading that. And thank you, Colonel Jeff, Brian, and all the others that sent feedback regarding this. They knew that we'd be interested in it. Hey, Mike Carroll's, the Flying and Life host, was down in Fun and Sun in Lakeland, Florida.
Sun and Fun.
That too.
Close enough.
Yeah, the one that I was thinking of is the one the week before, the Fun and Sun. But Sun and Fun is the one actually that Mike was present, and he met up with someone in the ABG community from a long way away. So let's hear what he has to say.
Hey APG community, it's Mike, Dispatcher Mike here in Sun and Fun, and I, if you remember from a few episodes ago, Gus sent some feedback about meeting up with people here while at Sun and Fun. Well, I met up with Gus, and he has a very interesting story to tell. So Gus, what brings you to Sun and Fun all the way from Buenos Aires, Argentina?
I'm here like everyone else, I guess, to see airplanes and to see a nice show. We have smaller shows down there, so this is huge, and I like it so far.
Good. So as we were talking, you told me that you just bought a Piper Archer. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, Piper Arrow.
Sorry, a Piper Arrow.
Yeah, it's a 1978 Piper Arrow, and we actually bought it here in the States, and we exported it to Buenos Aires.
So it's obviously the aircraft was cheaper here in the States than it was in Argentina. So how did you get it all the way down to Buenos Aires from here in Florida? Did you fly it, or what happened?
Well, it's kind of a long story. We started down in September last year. I was lucky to have a friend here in the States who owned the plane, so he was the one who sold the plane to us. So we trusted him. We didn't have to go through the all the paperwork for making sure that everything was okay. And we brought the plane here to Lakeland, where there's a guy who takes the airplanes apart and put them in containers to ship them to anywhere in the world. So that's what we did.
So you bought a perfectly good airplane, flew it from Fort Lauderdale to here in Lakeland, gave it to a guy to rip the wings off.
That's right.
Okay, so once you did that, he puts it in the container. Explain the process and how the airplane actually got from here in Lakeland, Florida, to Buenos Aires.
All right. Before that, before they put the airplane apart, they have to do the export certificate to make sure that the airplane is airworthy. After that, they start putting it apart. They perfectly attach it to the container walls on the floor to make sure that nothing moves around. They took apart the wings, and they took some of the other parts apart, like the cone of the propeller and other stuff. And the container got transported in a truck, sorry, from Lakeland to Fort Lauderdale's airport. So it went flying from Fort Lauderdale to Lakeland and then back to Fort Lauderdale by truck inside the container. Then it was sitting there at the port for maybe 2 weeks until the ship came and they put it in the ship and it went to sail. Then we have been able to track the exact position, the exact location of the container through an app, through a web app. It's just like flight radar, but for ships. So the ship went to the north first and then back to the south. It made several stops and finally 1 month later, it arrived to the port of Buenos Aires.
So you once it gets to Buenos Aires, then I assume it gets trucked to your airport now?
Right. They put it in another truck. It went through customs. That took like maybe 3 to 5 days. They do like an inspection and make sure that everything you said you were going to import is actually what's in the container. So after we cleared that, they took it to the airport. And we finally got to see the airplane there in Buenos Aires. That was a happy moment.
It is a happy moment. So explain the process of going and changing the registration from a U.S. registration to an Argentinian tail number.
Yeah, you have to, after the airplane is on the ship, you can make the deregistration of the current N number on the airplane. And once you have that, you get assigned a new registration in your country. So you need to show in the destination country that the original tail number is deregistered already.
Gotcha. So now you have it at a home at the airport in a hangar, and you have airplane in a box. So how do you then go and turn it from a container then back to an airplane?
Right. Okay. First of all, to take it out of the container, it was quite a challenge because we didn't have the tools to do that. Probably the people here in Lakeland does that every day with several airplanes. They have everything set up for that. So it was quite handcrafted, let's say. So we finally put it into the floor and into the hangar where there's a maintenance shop, and they started to putting it together again. So that was again a long process because we wanted to change some of the bolts that secure the wings, and it was difficult for us to get new bolts down in Argentina, so we had to import them again from the States. So it's been a really long process, and we're also changing some of the interiors and installed a new radio. We had to repaint the registration number on the airplane, so we had to remove the old painting and put new painting on. And well, it took a long time, but it's almost ready. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have the airplane flying again.
Okay, that's really an interesting way to get an airplane, buy an airplane and all that. Let's talk a little bit about what's it like to fly in Argentina. Is it similar to the United States flying, or what's the flying conditions like in Argentina?
Yeah, it's nice. A nice place to fly. We have a lot of flat surface, so no mountains for the most of the territory. You have some interesting mountain flying as well in the west and in the south, but the infrastructure is not as good as it is here in the States. It's quite difficult. We have many uncontrolled airfields with grass runways. My usual flying takes place in a grass runway, so I'm used to land there and take off from soft fields.
So you used to grass strips and all of that. Is there ATC user fees or anything like that in Argentina?
No, usually no. The landing fees are mostly for the main airports, but you can easily go to any airfield, municipal airfield, or some even privately owned airfields that are public for you to land there, and there's no cost on doing that.
So thanks, Gus, very much for reaching out on the Airline Pilot Guy show, for coming and spending the last couple of days together with me, going around with Sun and Fun. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And like I've said all the time before, if there's any APG members going to be somewhere, make sure you reach out to other people in the community, because it is a truly good aviation community that we have here at the APG.
And Flying in Life and PTUK and all of the great aviation podcasts out there, Airplane Geeks included. So many great shows out there. Opposing Base. I know I'm going to forget somebody, so all of them are.
You know who you are.
You know who you are. And but that's the cool thing about this aviation podcasting world. Mike is the host of an awesome podcast, Flying in Life. He goes down to Fun and Sun, and did I do that right again? No, Sun and Fun.
Sun and Fun.
You have to be in the sun before you get the fun.
The fun. I don't know, whatever it is. He was down there, and he was having fun, and it was in the sun. And but he took the time to record something for our show, which is just amazing. So thank you, Mike, for doing that. And again, I feel like everybody that listens to all these different shows we're all part of the same community.
Absolutely.
So, Gus, that was cool. Gus from Argentina, and that was a neat story about chopping up an airplane and putting it in a shipping container and then putting it all back together.
I love it.
Yeah. Very nice. Okay. Let's see.
There are a lot of airplanes out there that just look like shipping containers with wings on.
Yeah, like the shorts.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the one that comes to
You
me.
left the fuselage behind, just stick the wings on the shipping container.
Maybe that's where they got the idea. They ship airplanes in these things.
Yeah.
Put some wings on it and a tail.
There
We're
you
good to go.
Be just fine.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? It wouldn't be an APG without Plain Tales. And so I think now would be a great time to play this week's installment of Plain Tales, the Sir Glenn Torpy interview, part 3, the final installment.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. In this third part of my interview with Sir Glenn, we discuss the conclusion of his work in the Gulf and talk a little about the rest of his distinguished career.
At the end of the first Gulf War, when you guys took your dusty but slightly now scratched Tornadoes home, what was it like to get back to your base?
It was great. We were really lucky. I mean, the detachment didn't lose any guys. My biggest fear, if I'm honest, was we just spent 6 months doing some really exciting workup flying, 100-foot flying, 250-foot night TF flying and such like. We then had 3 months out on operations, and I thought, how am I going to get the boys to obey the rules when we get home? But it was fascinating to see how the guys just slipped straight back into normal peacetime operations. And I'm convinced, in the way I analysed it in my own mind, they got all of the excitement out of their system. They didn't need to prove anything to anybody. They'd done it. And it was, so I didn't really have to worry about it.
Excellent. Now, you actually had quite a small detachment from 13 Squadron out there. You must have formed pretty close fighting relationship with those guys.
Yeah, and again, people ask me, what was the biggest lesson? I learned a lot about human nature during it, because, of course, suddenly you see people under quite significant stress, and everybody handles stress differently as well. But it was fascinating just to see how people I knew pretty well, how they responded to prolonged pressure and a really odd lifestyle as well for the period that we were out there, because We used to sleep during the day, and then obviously go and fly at night. And it was just a really weird environment. No, I was immensely impressed with the blokes, not just the aircrew. I mean, the ground crew who used to work, every hour that God gave them, keeping the jets going and the kit going as well. So no, it was a great experience.
And it's very hard in a war environment, but was there anything amusing that occurred that you could perhaps relate to us?
I'm not sure if I can think of anything amusing, if I'm honest. No, it's a bit tricky. I'll tell you what, though, because we were dry in Dhahran as well, no surprise, which I'm very grateful for. I don't think that's the sort of thing you want to go off and have a few pints before you leap into your jet, or leap into your jet with a hangover. But I'll tell you what, it's very cheap when you go off to Bahrain after the war and you haven't had anything to drink for 3 months, because you only need a couple of pints and you're well inebriated.
Brilliant. That's it with regards to your operational stuff, unless there's anything I've missed.
No, I was in the right place at the right time, both as a squadron commander and then when I was AOC, to be able to participate in those campaigns. And because of the other jobs I did during my career, I've been really involved in operations all my service career, which has been a great privilege to see, what the UK delivers at the end of the day across all three services.
Great. Well, thanks very much. Before you go, though, perhaps we could examine just a little bit of your career, which, of course, went on until you were the most senior officer in the Royal Air Force and basically ran the show. At one point, you were Chief of Joint Operations. What kind of a job was that? And were you doing things like attending COBRA meetings? I ought to perhaps explain that at COBRA meetings, senior ministers from the British government are briefed on major events and emergencies.
My first experience of the Permanent Joint Headquarters, PJHQ, was actually as a one-star. So after I'd finished my station commander at Bruggen, went off and did the Royal College of Defence Studies, and then I was posted out of that to be Assistant Chief of Staff Operations in PJHQ. The headquarters only just stood up, so about 18 months before I joined, 2 years before I joined, it stood up. And this was an institution which had been created, and many people were quite skeptical about the PJHQ, but it proved its value straight off in terms of coordinating and then running the UK's operations. So we were able to bring together the joint force and then manage and deploy it, execute the operation, and then bring the force home, and then give the force back to the single services. So I did 2 years as ACOS J3, and that's when we did the Kosovo campaign. We were still doing operations in Iraq in the no-fly zones, and then we had peaks of activity like Operation Desert Fox and such like when Saddam misbehaved. And then there were non-combatant evacuations we used to run as well every so often if you had to evacuate UK entitled people out of unstable bits of the world, plus humanitarian operations. So in years after that, I then became Chief of Joint Operations. And at that stage, we were clearly running Iraq, Afghanistan, continuing operations in the Balkans. And again, anything which popped up out of the woodwork, very quickly. It could be a humanitarian relief operation. It could be a non-combatant operation. Fascinating job, really fascinating, and great to see our people from all three services out on operations. One of the most impressive and satisfying bits of the job, to be quite honest, to see how relative youngsters in many cases are given an incredible amount of responsibility and very, very rarely let you down. And I was really impressed.
Now, rather controversially, when you were Chief of the Air Staff, you argued for the consolidation of the UK's air power, which basically meant you want to take that you wanted to take the jets away from the Royal Navy. How did that go down?
I think it needed to be viewed in the wider context that defence was under real pressure from a financial perspective, and the Air Force had done a huge amount in terms of how can we consolidate our headquarters, how can we support our equipment better, and we'd made massive savings with the Harrier and with Tornado in reducing our support savings. But you then look at how we did flying training, for instance, and how we manned different forces. And whilst we were in earlier eras with larger forces, there may have been justification for a maritime air component in reality, or an army air component. When you were under those financial pressures, you really did need to look at how can we do this more efficiently and cheaper, because otherwise we were just going to end up with a smaller front line at the end of the day. There's only a finite amount of money out there, and you spend it on people, you spend it on training, you spend it on logistic support, or you spend it on capital aircraft and equipment. So to me, it was, and the other aspect here is, whilst in the past, there was probably good justification for having maritime pilots flying F4s, Buccaneers, off carriers and such like, where you needed to practice those sort of skills on a very regular basis because of those sort of demands. As we looked into the era of F-35, and that's where I was focused, you look at an F-35, it'll fly up to a carrier automatically. So gone is the sort of trauma of landing an F4 or a Buccaneer on a heaving deck. And so in my view, there was an opportunity to save money by streamlining the way that we delivered air power. And that was the justification for where I was coming from. It didn't make me some friends in certain quarters, but that I passionately believe that that's, as we get smaller, we cannot afford duplication.
Do you still have to take a bit of a route around Admiralty when you walk through London?
No, I've got some very good mates in the Navy.
But I do see your point. I mean, if you treated an aircraft carrier as just another airfield, and the RAF employed to it as they would do, or be based on one as they might do on a land-based airfield, then you just do see the logic.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt the carriers are hugely useful as an alternate flexible basing option. And also, in certain circumstances, there is no doubt if you go and park a carrier off somebody's shore, they will take notice of you. Yeah. And there are certain scenarios when that is hugely valuable.
Now, you did mention that, of course, you were around when the Harrier was taken, some would say prematurely, out of service. What was the justification for that?
That again, was really simple. We were under financial pressure, and we had to find savings, and you either salami slice your existing force structure. So you say, get rid of a couple of Tornado squadrons and a Harrier squadron, for instance. But actually, it's the logistic support of those platforms, which is where you save the money. And the only way to save serious money is to get rid of a complete aircraft type. And then you had to look at the relative size of the Tornado force and the Harrier force. We only had 3 Harrier squadrons. At that stage, we had 7 Tornado squadrons. We were completely committed on operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the Harrier force was burnt out. They were basically going on operations. We were coming back from operations, having a bit of R&R, and then working up and going on the next cycle. So you effectively had the whole force committed, and they'd been on operations for 3 years. That was unsustainable. From our own Harmony guidelines, the MOD's Harmony guidelines, it was unsustainable. Whereas you had 7 Tornado squadrons. So they were much more resilient. in truth, it was a more capable aircraft as well. Had a greater range of weapons, and it was, say, more capable. So we were faced with, how do we save the money? What's the most efficient way of doing this? And what's the most sustainable from an operational perspective? So we made the decision we would get rid of the Harrier for all the downsides, and we all recognized the downsides of it. And nobody wanted to give them up, but if you had to save money, you had to save money.
Yeah, I've got to admit it, Glenn, you just didn't like Harrier pilots.
I went and learned to fly the Harrier, and it was a great aeroplane.
Okay, I take it back. Okay, I understand you've been closely involved with the RAF Museum. That must be fascinating. What are the future plans?
Yeah, I've been chairman of trustees of the museum now for, since 2010. It's great because it's an opportunity to give something back to the service. And the museum basically consists of two sites, one at Hendon in North London, the site of RAF Hendon, the original RAF Hendon, and then RAF Cosford. And when we were looking at what we would like to do to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Air Force, we looked at what we would like to do at Hendon. And Hendon, the museum, was actually created as a legacy of the 50th anniversary of the Air Force. So it was quite appropriate to look at what should we do at RAF Hendon to celebrate the 100th. So we've had a complete transformation of the site. We've raised £26 million. And on or about the 21st of June this year, we will open a transformed site at Hendon, which has got 3 new exhibitions. We brought back to life the old history of Hendon, because most people who visit the site don't realise it was an airfield. So we tried to bring that back to life, but we've also plugged some gaps in the way we told the RAF story. So in reality, we did not have an exhibition which told the contemporary history of the Air Force from the Falklands onwards. So we will open a new exhibition which will cover from 1982 to the present day. I think it's also really important that we inspire the future generations to be interested in aerospace, air power in the round. So there will be another exhibition, which is the RAF now and the future. So this will all be about new technology, what the Air Force is doing today. And then the other new exhibition is clearly the 100 years of the RAF. So trying to encapsulate the key features of the Air Force. And I do think we are different to the other two services. It's really interesting. As we do celebrate those 100 years, the first independent Air Force, to start off with, had a bit of a troubled birth. But the Air Force is a real meritocracy. We draw people from across society, and you work your way up through the organization because of what you can deliver for the organization.
It's a great family as well. So, I mean, a lot of my listeners have been to, and specifically come to London to visit the Royal Air Force Museum. Later on in the year, then, it'll be a fantastic place for them to revisit.
Absolutely. And once, we've now virtually finished that transformation at Hendon, and our centenary legacy program will be turning our attention to our site up at RAF Cosford, which actually is more modern than Hendon anyway. And there are things that we would like to do there. We've got a fantastic Cold War exhibition up there, but we want to make sure that people who go to Cosford get the same experience and see virtually the same as what we show people down at Hendon.
Absolutely. How are you enjoying semi-retirement? When are you eventually going to hang up your flying boots completely?
Well, having retired from the Air Force in 2009, I then started working for BAE Systems in 2011. And I've had a great time. It's been really interesting, having been a customer for 35 years, to be delivering for the RAF and for many other air forces around the world. And I've really enjoyed it. It's been a fantastic experience really getting involved with some of the manufacturing and the technology and such like. It's kept me involved with the Air Force and other air forces, which has been fantastic. But I am now going into retirement fully, and a bit more golf, a bit of sailing. But I've had a great time. But I am looking forward to a slightly more relaxed lifestyle now.
I don't blame you. One final question, if I may. What is it like to be a liveryman of the Worshipful Company of Haberdashers?
Oh, this is an interesting institution. So, again, many of your listeners will know that we have in the UK these institutions called the livery companies, which go back hundreds of years in some cases. What happened when I was boss of 13 Squadron, most of the livery companies are affiliated with Army regiments, naval vessels, and RAF squadrons, so they can maintain those links with the armed services. The haberdashers were not affiliated to an RAF squadron. So because we were a low-numbered squadron, we'd be around for a while. It was felt. Then we were nominated to be affiliated to the haberdashers. They're not haberdashers today. Actually, the haberdashers are a great institution. They run some very, very good schools. Very good schools. So that was one of the attractions. They're very much involved. They come from all walks of life in the city. It's a great opportunity for us, the Air Force, to be introduced to people we would not normally rub shoulders with, people who operate in the city and such like. But equally, it's really good for them to come and rub shoulders with people in the Royal Air Force. So we used to take them flying every so often, give them a trip in a Tornado. And equally, we would come to some of their events in London as well. So it's been a really good mutual relationship.
Excellent. I was pulling your leg a little bit.
I thought you might be.
That's absolutely brilliant, Glenn. Thank you very much indeed for giving me your time. It's been absolutely fascinating hearing some operational details of what you were doing out in the Gulf, and some really in-depth stuff as well. So thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
Wow, what a great series, Captain Nick. He is such
Plane
a...
Tales is a featured segment of the Airline Pilot Show, Aviation.
Every time.
Airline Pilot Guide.
Not every time, only once before. Last time I didn't do it.
I've only done it twice.
Oh, really? Including this one, or twice before?
No. What I
This
mean
is the second time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it right once. You got it right last time.
Yeah, last time I remembered. Yeah. Okay, well, that was. How do I recover from this? That was another great. No. Love that series, Captain Nick. Sir Glenn Torpy is an amazing pilot, an amazing gentleman.
Yeah, he's and a great friend, which is just fantastic. I really, when your kids together, learning to fly together, and experiencing all that you do when you just join the Air Force, you hardly expect your the guy beside you to be the bloke that ends up running the whole goddamn Air Force. So yeah, it was a delight to catch up with him again and listen to a bit about his career and how he gets on being a haberdasher.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, I look forward to next week's installment. It'll be something different, I'm sure.
It is something new. It is an accident this time, relatively recent, 1992, I think. And it involves engines falling off airplanes.
Falling off airplanes?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing that one.
Mm.
Matt from Oz writes us. I know I said I was going to just do one more, but it looks like we can squeeze in another couple, I think. Or wait a minute.
I think we should go for 4 hours.
Hang on a second.
Yes, we know that's what you
go
do.
for 4 hours.
Hang on.
Says the one who doesn't have to go to work tomorrow.
What's going on here?
True. But what time is it here?
It's not
It's
recording
irrelevant.
anymore.
What?
My recorder stopped.
Uh-oh.
Because I looked and I thought, well, wait a minute. It says we've only been going for 240. And I'm thinking, well, I know that's what it said when I looked at it about 15 minutes ago.
I have 3:19 on my clock, but that was a little early. I started early.
Wow. Okay. I'm wondering where this stopped. Hang on. Now I can't hear it.
Yeah, I've got 3:19 as well.
Oh, shoot. Well, then
Who should we shoot?
me. Well, I'm hoping that what the last thing is that it was recording was the plaintails, because I can just stick the plaintails in there.
You should have the recording.
Yeah, I do.
On the Hangout. Yeah,
I do. Here, let me make sure I can get this thing to record again.
How's your hard drive's full?
I wonder why it stopped.
That's what my thought was. Do you have any memory space left?
Oh, let me look.
Start over.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do the whole thing over.
Yeah.
Is everybody available for the next 3 hours?
I am. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
just kidding. No, it still says I don't have a lot left on the hard drive, but I do have some left over. I'm not sure that's the reason why it stopped or not, but I guess we should keep going. We should hurry. So I'm not going to do a couple more.
No.
I am going to, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to pretend we just finished Plaintails. Well, that was another great series of interviews, Captain Nick. Thank you for doing that. And Sir Glenn Torpy is just an amazing individual.
He is, and it was a privilege to talk to him.
All right. Well, I look forward to more Plaintails in the future. And let's see. Let's end today's show with something from someone that you, I think most of you have heard of, know, and perhaps listened to his podcast, Carlos, from the Plain Talking UK podcast. He sent something to me last week, or actually just a few days ago. He said, "Hi, Jeff. Safe to say your show is keeping me going through the PTUK studio build. So thanks to you all. One of the best gifts I received for Christmas was the Alexa. But imagine my shock when one morning last week I asked her a particular question." It says, "See attached video." So I'll put the video in the show notes so you can watch it. But here's the audio from his video.
Alexa, what is a chemtrail?
Chemtrail, trails left by aircraft, are actually chemical or biological agents deliberately sprayed at high altitudes for a purpose undisclosed to the general public in clandestine programs directed by government officials.
Alexa, shh.
You heard it from Alexa.
So I wrote back to Carlos. I said, "Now, you made that up, right? That you just put that together and that was all fabricated." And he goes, "No, I actually asked her the question." And that was really Alexa's response.
I'm going to have to go ask my Alexa as well.
Well, it was for a while. This was because I read about it in the newspapers.
Oh.
And I immediately asked my Alexa what it was, and she came back with as you'd expect, the boring answer. So whoever had put in the initial information blurb had already removed it.
Okay.
But the report was that this is what she says, and as Carlos correctly recorded, that was what she said at the time.
Well, very interesting. I don't recall ever seeing that in the aviation news world over here, but maybe it was just I was hiding under a rock or something.
So I'm assuming
my Alexa has a different accent, so maybe it's a different Alexa. It gives out different information.
It might come from the same source. I think the CIA, the Chemtrail Intelligence Agency, actually adjusted that pretty damn quick.
All right.
As they should.
It's a mystery. And you did not hear it from us.
Definitely not.
Okay, well, next time we're going to have more great feedback from the likes of Matt from Oz, Richard asking about if I'm moonlighting, somewhere. Let's see what else. The latest installment of How I Got Here. Hi. So look forward to hearing that. Unfortunately, we ran out of time on today's show. Alex, Ralph, Tony, and so many more, perhaps you, next show. And that'll be episode 321, which we'll be recording next Thursday. If you want to be part of that feedback, head over to airlinepilotguy.com. You can send feedback to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com. So many ways to do it. Great website, airlinepilotguy.com, where you can find information about the crew and the community and merchandise and watch the show live and various ways to watch and listen to the show. And Plain Tales, don't forget that. That's a great section that we have on the website where you can learn about how you can subscribe to the RSS feed of that great segment of our show, and social media.
You can head over to Twitter. Our handle there is @APG Crew. Find all of our individual Twitter information pinned to the top of that page as well. If Facebook is more your thing, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. Lots of good interaction going on with APG community members there. Lots of aviation related stories and sometimes meetup information there. So see you on the social medias. Hello.
Hillel has a Slack team info here.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @HI11E1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel @HI11E1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you, Hillel. And until next time, wishing you, I forgot to mention the mobile apps. We have those as well. Information about that can be found on the airlinepilotguy.com website as well. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Bye, everybody. I think Steph tried to say something, but she was muted.
You're muted, I think.
Steph tried to say,
It's got to be something better than,
That was just my frustration.
There we go.
Is it be a pirate day?
Yes.
Well, I guess apparently that's what we all Americans sound like to you guys.
We all sound like Australians.
And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
There, we did it. They'll never know. Unless they watch the video. And if you watch the video, you know all our dirty
All the
secrets.
secrets. All the secrets.
Damn.
And I don't know how the heck I lost track of the time and end of the recording. I'm hoping that it didn't occur because I hit the wrong button, but
it doesn't automatically stop, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's never done that. So I must have been on this application window, and I must have been checking the time because it has a running time of how long we've been recording. And maybe I just accidentally hit the stop button or something. I don't know. That would be weird. I don't know. That doesn't matter. I think we got it all. So
we'll
That's
find
all that
out
matters.
tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll find out probably soon. Maybe shortly after we end this call. I'm going to go back. Okay, where did I stop recording? Anyway, you know what I should do? Stop recording. Okay, stop. There we go. Let's see. Thank you everybody again for being with us in the chat room. Sorry the show is so long, but we made several comments behind the scenes. Like, I can't believe it's already been 3 hours or more. Just flies. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess they say.
It really does.
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
Are we
as
having fun?
Nick falls over because he's. What time is it there? Is it after midnight?
Oh, it's not bad. It's 1:45. We're doing pretty well.
Oh, good. Well, then we can hang around for another couple hours then, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's make it 4 hours. Let's go for the record.
Maybe not today.
Oh,
I feel like it would just make for more editing. You have to pick and choose. The
Yeah, I don't
parts.
care. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I try to restrict it more for the poor people that have to listen to it than for me editing it. What's a little bit more time? Doesn't
I
matter.
think they choose to listen to it.
And
we don't
I have
force them, do we?
I pretty much. Well, I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to. Sounds like some of these people are being forced with a gun to their head to listen to it.
Well, I didn't want to tell you I was doing that to people, but
hey, Steph, we're not going to talk about our private stuff that's going on. And
sorry.
The guy that's in the room with Steph holding the gun at her head, he's staying out of camera shot,
Yeah,
so that's good.
Just off screen. I've asked him to at least. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, this was working out great for me because I'm basically full for the month. I mean, I have a couple more trips, but I can't pick up any regular trips anymore unless they give me a green slip, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen unless the weather gets really bad somewhere. So, so I have until Monday. I don't go back out again until Monday.
Oh, very nice.
I have a few days off, which is going to be nice. I'm going to look forward to that. I was supposed to go, if you're wondering about my personal training regimen. Basically, since
I was.
I know Steph is already always wondering about it, and I the whole thing got kind of put on pause since I went out to California for that whole thing, and I have been trying to get it back on track. And I actually had a personal training session scheduled for this morning at 10, and then I got a text from my personal torturer, Kayla, that said that she thinks she has bronchitis. And she had to go to the doctor, and would it be okay if I postponed our session? And I went, well, okay.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh, you.
So
Yeah.
sad.
Oh,
Let me wipe this
darn.
tear from
I
my
was looking so
eyes.
forward to it.
Didn't get to work out.
Because I knew it was going to be very painful because it's been almost a month since
You
I've
do know you
Yeah.
can go to the gym without the personal trainer?
She told me I can't.
I doubt it. Kayla. Is that her name?
Kayla said, you better not go unless I'm here to give you your workout. Okay. No, I actually have been a few times doing cardio and stuff like that, but not any of the horrible things that she makes me do.
Does she hold a gun to your head?
Yeah,
while you're
they're so horrible and horrific and traumatic that I cannot remember what it was that I was doing to cause me such pain.
blocked it completely from your
It's
mind.
like an emotional, psychological thing. I can't remember, so I just go on the treadmill and look at all those torture machines on the other part of the.
They're good for you. You'll learn to love and embrace them. I have no doubt.
I don't think so. Anyway, so I hope to get it back on track soon. So, if anybody's wondering, let's see. So I guess the only thing I can play
What is
there
wrong
is-
with Evernote?
Rick, I will never run a marathon. I can guarantee you that.
Stand by
I'm not-
for next year.
I'm not a runner.
Get Jeff to run
I'm
a
not a
marathon.
runner.
That's what I said.
Did you?
5-6 years ago.
Not a runner.
Not
I
a
cannot
runner.
stand running. Anyway, all right. Any big plans for the weekend for you all?
No.
Well, that's boring. Aren't you going to go skydiving or flying or something, Steph? It's going to be kind of crappy weather, though, isn't it?
Sky flying.
I think it's actually going to be nice.
Oh.
I
thought that they.
But I had a lot of stuff last weekend and a lot of stuff next weekend, and
You're just going to take it easy.
just need a weekend to.
Yeah. Decompress.
Yeah.
So hopefully, is everything still going okay for next Thursday?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And-
After we stop the broadcast, I'd like to talk to you about times
Okay,
and whatnot.
sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, everybody, thanks for flying with us today.
Bye.
Yeah, it was fun.
I was going to say we appreciate your business here at the APG.
We know you had a choice in podcast, and we appreciate you choosing ours.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. So long, and thanks for all the fish.